Well, hello everybody. Just finished that chocolate biscuit. This is Norman Kochner here, watching the end of the match here with, of course, Norman Kochner from Eyes on Cricket. Just want to keep my heart on it. It's quite interesting with India now 6 for 179. Some 152 runs in the front, with Rishabh Pant not out 14, Ishant Sharma not out 2, and in fact Moeen Ali bowling, who's taken 2 for 50. It's quite an interesting stage of the match, with Pujara having scored 45 along with Ajinkya Rahane scoring 61. You have to consider that to be small wins for those two batsmen, considering the form that they've been in. Well, they've put up some sort of rearguard action against England after the score. At one stage it was some 3 for 55, and then they went about a 100-run partnership between Pujara and Rahane, which is commendable considering the situation. So they went from 3 for 55 to 4 for 155, and now they're currently 6 for, well, no, not 6, it's in fact 6 for 181. So they did lose wickets to Pujara and Rahane very much soon after each other, and Jadeja went for some 3 runs. So Moeen Ali's proven to be a bit of a winner there towards the end, taking the wickets of both Rahane and Jadeja. Pujara, of course, went to Wood. So effectively, the Indian batting side did stumble very early on. I mean, they went for 3 for 55. Both Rohit Sharma got out to a shot that he should not have played, and Kohli again chased a ball that he should not have chased. And they were both a little disappointing. But you got to commend Pujara having faced 206 balls for his 45, and Rahane some 146 balls for his 61. They did dig India out of some sort of situation from 355 to 1 for 55, so it's a 100-run partnership, which is commendable. There's a bit of discussion here about what's going on, whether they're going to bowl pace or spin, because the light's obviously come into account here. So India leading by 154 is certainly not a great lead, but you just don't know on the last day of a test match whether, it looks like they might be offering light. Are they offering light? There's some discussion going on. It looks as though the players are heading, it looks like the batsmen are heading off, and the bowlers are heading off. So it looks like we have got end of day's play. It looks like the bad light has come into play. So both Root and light seems to be the issue here. Root did want to bowl a faster bowler, and that may have been the reason why. It looks like both Ishant Sharma and Rishabh Pant are walking up the field. Moeen Ali certainly has done well in his spell, but in terms of the total, though, 6 for 181 of 82 overs of a strike or run rate of 2.2, which is relatively slow, but a very dour game of day of Test cricket. You would argue now that India being 154 in front, by no means is that a large so-called lead, but if they can count another 50 runs, maybe let's just say 50 runs tomorrow, or even up to 70 runs, 75 runs, that'll bring up a lead of 225, 230. So here we are, looking at the day's play, of course. Let's go through a bit more in detail, shall we? Rahul was out, caught Butler, bowled Wood for 5, a particularly good ball. Wood did bowl well early. Rohit Sharma caught Ali backwards square leg of a shot that he was just not there for the play. He was suckered into playing some pull shot. Played one very good pull shot, which ended the game for 6, but then succession of shorter balls from Wood led to Sharma getting out to a ball he should not have played. Then Coley came into bat, and he and I think it was he and Pujara steadied the ship somewhat. But Virat Kohli was looking not too bad, was looking quite reasonable. But boy, he chased that ball from Curran, which was not there to be played. It was well outside. Something got the edge to him. Consequently, out. They brought Pujara and Rahane together, and they put on a 100-run partnership, a very dour 100 runs. It was certainly inked out. It was not anything flamboyant. But Rahane did score 61 and Pujara's 45. So they both have proven that they're not worthy of being dropped just yet. I think they've saved their test careers somewhat. And brought Punt in, albeit not his usual moves. Hasn't scored a 4 or a 6. He's on 14 or 29 balls, so it's been a lot steadier. But Mohamed Ali did prove that Tricky got Jadeja, unfortunately, for they're showing a dismissal there. I think Rahane played the ball, which he probably shouldn't have, but he did get 61. Ishant Sharma's taking up one anyway. There's not much batting to come, let's be honest. Bumrah, Sharma, and Siraj. Rishabh Pant, we'll probably see him tomorrow be a lot more aggressive, I would imagine. Now that they've lasted the day's play out, will be more aggressive, and it really is a Punt special. If Punt can engineer the strike, and the likes of Ishant Sharma can hang with him, will stay with him, Punt could ink out 50 or 60 more runs. It may not be necessarily enough, but that would leave about let's say 220, around the 220 mark. It'll make a game of it for sure. Just enough for England to have to, will certainly have the intensity of wanting to win. You'd hope England approach with an intensity to try and win the match rather than defending it, because it could be England are notorious in these sort of situations. Not actually go for those runs, actually to be defensive. That could play into the hands of India. We just don't know, but they could certainly deal with Ravi Shastri. No, they could deal with not Ravi Shastri, but they could deal with Ashwin, couldn't they? They could certainly with Ashwin in the bowling department. So very unfortunate, but intriguing match still. And you got to give credit to Pujara and Rahane not be knocking them. Is it stumps or not? Well, at this point, probably it does. Bad luck stopping play. You'd argue that it would be hard for them to come back on. Just appreciate the captaincy of Root. Wow, he's been a very good captain. Do you think if India gets placed on the lead, will be good in the position? They're going to need more than 220. England are cheaters, no, I wouldn't say. Need some blows from Jadeja and Punt to take the lead. But well, Jadeja's no longer there. Punt not allowed that. Yeah. Good stand by Rahane. Yeah, I mean, the Pujara's wicket was certainly a good one. But you must give credit to Pujara and you must give credit to Rahane. With 45 and 61 respectively, they certainly didn't bat badly. They batted very slowly, but under the circumstances, they did what they needed to do, and I think that was pretty admirable, actually. Penny, one of those didn't go on to score a century, but Rahane's 61 has kept him in the Test side, and Pujara's 45 has also kept him in the Test side. Punt and Jadeja, well, I think the pity is that Jadeja actually got for 3, but I think you've got Punt still there, and if he can engineer the strike tomorrow, hopefully we can get. They're going to need 220 to make a game of this. If they go for anything less than 200, which would mean England will be in bat in that first session of tomorrow, it gives England enough time to win the match. But will they actually play accordingly? Will they actually play to win? Is the interesting thing. Or will they play to defend? It'll be interesting because it will really. really, if it had been New Zealand or even Australia or India themselves, if it were around a total of 200, they'd be going for it. So that's the reality of that. That's probably the pity of we haven't actually got that situation occurring. All right. Well, we still haven't officially been given the end of the day's play. I don't think this end of the day's play is yet. Let's have a look here. No, it is actually no. Stumps have been called. Stumps have actually been called. My apologies. Stumps have been called. And the end of the day's play will be 6 for 181, which is around about half of what India got in the first innings. In the last 10 overs, the score was 3 for 30. So effectively, they were 3 for 30 in the last. That was a pretty crucial last 10 overs where 3 was taken 2 to Ali, and of course the one to Wood. Wood was quite admirable. In fact, it's interesting how Anderson has not taken a wicket in this innings, considering how you normally say, yeah. The reality is that they did lose 3 for 30. So effectively, India were 3 for 151, leading the last 10 overs of the day's play. And had they finished on 3 wickets down for 180 as opposed to 6, it would have been definitely a day that India would argue would be in their favour. Unfortunately, those wickets did fall. But I think you can only be rather admirable about the situation there. I think that India effectively, Moeen Ali is actually being interviewed post-match at this stage. They're coming through live. He'd be quite pleased with his bowling. His figures in the end were 20 overs, 252. They're unusual to see Anderson and Robertson taking wickets, with Mark, Wood, Curran, and Ali being the three wicket takers in the team. Even Joe Root had 5 overs. But yeah, commendable by Ajinkya Rahane and Pujara 45, considering the circumstances of the match and the way they came together when the wickets were basically 3 down. They held together the middle order quite reasonably and made a match of this. You have to argue now that 6 for 181, that still you would argue it was a fairly balanced day. I think more in favour of England, but we just don't know if that's enough. At this point, the lead is 154. India leads by 154 at the end of the day's play. That's not enough. Simple as that. That's not enough. But if they can bring them up to a score of 200, or even also to 220, but yeah, getting 220 is a challenging total for England. But we just don't know, do we? I mean, it's up to Punt now. Punt has to actually show his wares. He did very well today. A lot more conservative. He wasn't out and out doing his usual swashbuckling self. We'll probably see him tomorrow take a bit of time, ding out some runs slowly in the first hour. And then first half an hour, I think Punt will start to then go for it. And if Punt can, add 30 or 40, 50, he will then certainly put them in a pretty good situation. Punt's not out at the moment, 14 off 29 balls without having had 4 or 6. It would have been nice if Jadeja was still with him, but unfortunately did get out to Ali. So they are interviewing Ali post-match, which would suggest that Ali's pretty buoyant. He was taking the 2 wickets, which if Punt hits 80, then India will get to 250. Well, if he gets 80, that'll mean he scores 70, which will be 220. Yeah, that's not 250 necessarily. Does India have a chance to win? Well, it really depends on how badly England bat. That's the point. If India bat another session tomorrow, the match would be a draw. I don't think it's really necessarily a matter about that. Rishabh Pant's attitude earlier will be a little. I can't be certain of it. Maybe Rishabh Pant should play his natural innings tomorrow. He's survived today, and we should see him actually go about this situation where he can has to come out there and be himself and play aggressively but intelligently. Keep the strike, not allow the tailenders to be exposed to the strike. And you could see a situation where they could get that score. But it's on the square of the shoulders of Rishabh Pant. This is what Rishabh Pant is all about. This is his theatre. This is exactly where he would like to be in this situation where he can come in tomorrow and be a lot more aggressive and take the away. We're joined now by Chris Vernon. How are you, Chris?
Hi, Norman. How are you? Been a while.
It has been a while. You got your MCC hat. Did you go out to the game today?
No, I didn't go to that. I was thinking about it. I had a stag do in London last night, or a Bucks party, as you Aussies like to call it. Yeah. And I decided just to sit on the sofa today and watch on the telly instead of going trekking into London. So,
because how long does it take to go to London for you?
From door to door to St John's Wood, it'll probably be an hour and a half or so. So it's not it's not the worst, but you have to obviously get everything on, and then on the train, on the tube. So yeah, it's not. It is what it is. But I just decided to stay at home today.
So since you've been last on, we've had a lot of interesting Test cricket.
Yeah.
A lot of pressure on Pujara and Rahane today, but give me a score out of 10 for those two.
I think the problem is for those two is that they obviously knuckled in and batted well, but the game doesn't really progress. Like, they batted for a session and a half there, and England are still on top. And I think that's the problem, is if a Sharma or if a Kohli had batted for a session and a half, the game would be, England probably wouldn't be favourites. I think at the moment England are probably slight favourites. They're not heavy favourites, but when the scoreboard doesn't move, it takes a lot out. It didn't matter to England too much, did it? So, but no, they did well. They're obviously both under pressure for their places in the side. So, it was certainly interesting.
Have they actually quelled that? Have they actually pushed that aside?
Their place in the team?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think Rahane maybe more than Pujara. I don't think getting 40 off 200 balls is what they want. I think that you need to be getting 70s, 80s, and 100 in Test cricket, doesn't it? Especially if they go on to lose the game. They'll be saying, what are you trying to do? They were in the position this morning where, if a Kohli had batted for 2 sessions, they might now be 150, nearly 200 in front, and all of a sudden it makes it a lot more interesting as a game. So.
But the very fact is that Kohli didn't get out for 20 to a ball he shouldn't have played against Curran, which he's played. He got out to the same delivery, I think, in the last Test match or only recently. So Kohli, despite being a great batsman, needs to learn to let balls go outside of stump and not chase them.
He's just a bit out of form at the moment, isn't he? Same as Pujara, same as Rahane. It's very easy when you're, searching for runs. It's sort of one of those weird scenarios that the more out of form you get, the more you want to hit the ball. And, Kohli's probably just really searching for that big innings to get him back into it. And when you are out of form, you feel for it and you nick them, don't you? And that's just the way the cricket is. And, it happens to the best of us. And he's still a very good player, and, he's going to come good at some point in the series. But just one of those things, isn't it? Curran sets him up quite well, bowled around the wicket, bowled a couple that came back in, and then just slid one across him. And, I think it was a reasonable bit of bowling. But just one of those things, just not in great form at the moment, Kohli, is he?
True. With Sharma and Rahul for a minute, Rahul got out rather cheaply. Sharma got out to a shot that he shouldn't have played. But both of those two guys have played fantastically.
Yeah.
In the previous 3 innings, they've had magnificent stands in all 3 matches, and in particular the first innings of this Test match. I'm very impressed with the way that KL Rahul's taken to his position, and Sharma's looked fantastic too, hasn't he? He's looked particularly good throughout the series as well. His 83 in the first inning was fantastic.
Yeah, India have been pretty lucky, really, haven't they? With KL Rahul, was he 3rd or 4th choice opening bat? Gill gets injured, Agarwal gets injured, and all of a sudden Rahul's chucked in, and he's done the business. And for the podcast we've done for probably 8 months now, a year, I've always been one of KL Rahul, especially on your channel with the guests you have on. I've always been one of KL Rahul's biggest fans. In the 2020 and the one day side, I've always said that he should be in that side, and he's batted very well. And just it's incredible to think that now he's probably cemented his place at the top of that order. When at 2 Test matches ago, he probably was he's only in the squad to make up numbers really as a backup keeper. But with Agarwal and Gill there, but those two are coming back in. He's not losing his place. So you've got to congratulate blokes on that for having, it's pretty decent mental bottle really to be able to do that and come in when needed and score big runs.
Well, the reality, exactly, you're perfectly right. And he not only has he scored big runs, he looks like he owns the place. He really looks like he's batted technically, I would argue, perfectly for England conditions. The way he leaves the ball alone outside of stump is very commendable. I think Sharma's actually learned from that and has adopted a very similar process. Kohli hasn't done that as well. Pujara and Rahane have been suffering quite badly, but I don't think Pujara or Rahane will be taken out of this Test match. If India lose this match, I still don't think those two will be dropped. Honestly, in all honesty, I think I've actually been pretty satisfied with the way the Indians have approached their selection process. The only doubt would be around Ashwin. What do you think? Should he have played this Test match?
No.
Okay.
Why would he have played?
You, I think.
Jadeja bowled 20 overs, didn't get a wicket. How many wickets did Jadeja take in the first Test? Didn't take a wicket. So, this whole idea that India should pick 2 spinners because it's their best side is nonsense. They picked the best side to suit English conditions, and it's been justified because the seamers have bowled very well. Who would have not played this Test? It would have been Sharma or Siraj. Would have been, Shami, Bumrah would have played. So it would have been one of Sharma or Siraj, where they took 4 for and 3 for. And in the first Test, it would have been Thakur. Well, Thakur probably would have played because of the batter, and it would have been probably Siraj again, and he took important wickets. So, the whole idea that, I think India have got their bowling selection spot on. Ashwin's a great bowler, but he doesn't get in that side at the moment in the conditions. And it's been shown in this Test. Jadeja bowled 22 overs, none for, didn't take a wicket in the first Test. So you certainly didn't need 2 spinners, did you?
No, that's very good points. Very good points. What do you think of Moeen Ali towards the end there when he picked up those 2 wickets? They're pretty vital wickets, weren't they?
Yeah, he bowled well. I think that's the thing that goes back to Pujara and Rahane not really being that positive is that, Moeen Ali's one of his biggest criticisms is that he does go for runs. And when you just let him settle in and bowl 10 overs for 20, I think it was, he gets in a bit of a rhythm. And, I think the criticism I would have of those two is that if they'd been a bit more positive, put him off his line of length, he probably doesn't bowl so well. And, they've allowed England back into the game when maybe with a little bit more intent, it would certainly be more interesting. But, England are going to take that new ball first thing in the morning. And there's every chance that that's a very, very long tail that India have. They could be all out in the first half an hour. And once again, it's relying on Rishabh Pant to have a bit of luck and swing his way out of it, really, isn't it?
So let's just assume in a positive manner that India ink out another 50 runs.
Mm-hmm.
Let's even say between 50 and 70 runs. It'll be a tall order. It'll be Pant taking charge to get that. Let's say India gets a lead of 220, which would be a highly positive thing for India at this stage.
Yeah.
Which means another 70 runs. And England are going into bat, let's say, somewhere around lunch, just before lunch.
Yeah.
What do you think England's attitude will be towards a score like that? Will they attack to try and get the win, or will they be more conservative and play for a draw?
Oh, they'll definitely go and try and win it. I'd say that 200, 220 in 2 sessions, they'll definitely be positive. They'll probably look to set a base in the afternoon session and look to be positive in the final session. But, I would say that if England can chase 170, 180, they'd be strong favourites. I think that 220, if India bowl well, you never know. These scores aren't chased massively on the last day of a Test, and England have got a slightly fragile top order. It's quite similar to India's, really, isn't it? There's a few guys in there who are short of runs, apart from obviously the big man at number 4, who's just been terrific, hasn't he? But interesting day 5 for sure, lined up tomorrow.
Why I'm saying that is because I'm looking back only maybe a month or so ago, or it's now 2 months, I can't think of exactly, before the World Test Championship, England played New Zealand. And there was the last Test match where New Zealand, I think they declared and gave England a fighting chance to win on that last day. And Sibley went out there and scored, I think, 60, but batted very defensively, and they played ultimately for a draw rather than a win, when it was quite plausible that England could have won that match.
Yeah, I think that chasing 270, 280 is slightly different to chasing 210, 220, though, isn't it? Psychologically. So I don't imagine that England will be so defensive going out. I think they'll come out attacking in the morning and just see where they end up, really.
Well, welcome, David Gravely. You've joined the younger version of Reg Vernon, the Chris Vernon.
The good version.
What's he got on his head? What is that?
My MCC, one of my MCC caps.
One of them. All right.
I've got two very similar ones. Actually, I prefer the other one. This is a different material, but yeah. How are you, Grav?
Very nice. Very good. So you had a good day, Norman?
Oh, I've had a great day. I mean, to me, I was quietly happy that Rahane and Pujara did score some scores. I think Rahane staved off the thought of being dropped, at least for the next couple of test matches, if not longer. And Pujara, well, the way he went about his innings today wouldn't have pleased the Indian selectors, but he has survived somewhat with his 100-run partnership. So at this point in time, we're not going to be talking too much about them being dropped at this point. But it's set this match up where Punt might go crazy a bit tomorrow morning. He was particularly conservative today, wasn't he?
They're dead in the water, Norman. They've got one end open to the second new ball. I don't think anybody showed any either courage or skill first time round. And basically, Pant's got a bat from both ends, like a helicopter. But psychologically, the figure 2 does make a bit of a difference if it's 200.
So actually, India batted 82 overs, so that new ball's due.
That was due, yeah. They wouldn't have taken it. Comes as light. It's spinning.
Exactly.
So, yeah, they've shown. I'd be really worried about Kohli's technique, because that was a wide he nicked to the keeper.
You mean the way he follows balls outside of stump, you're saying?
Well, he's at the ball. He's not letting the ball come to him. So if he does that, there's nowhere he knows, as Chris will know, being an outstanding batsman, where his off stump is. So he's.
Well, Chris, are you an outstanding batsman?
Well, I think Grav's just being polite because he's never seen me play before. But I'll take it. But,
I've seen video highlights of you launching it into the crowd at Lords.
Well, yeah, more luck than judgment, I think. But no, I was saying to Norman before you came on, Grav, that it's amazing cricket as a batter that when you're out of form, your reaction is you want to hit the ball more, and I think that's just what Kohli's experiencing, is that because he wants to feel bat on ball and score that runs, is that he's now playing at balls that he would normally leave alone if in nick. And it's amazing when you're in form. I played a game against Ian O'Brien, who played a lot of Test cricket for New Zealand.
Yeah.
And I was 40 odd at the close, and I said to him, I was like 18. I said, "How do I go about playing Test cricket? What would your advice be?" He said, "Just keep playing a missing." He said, "All the best players in the world play a miss more than they nick it." And it's weird how you think that on some days, and you may look at Joe Root or Bairstow in the first innings, they probably played a miss quite a bit. Yeah. And it's amazing how sometimes those things just go your way. And Kohli's just having one of those things at the moment where he's nicked a couple of good balls from Anderson or Curran, and that's the way the cookie crumbles sometimes, isn't it?
But his hitting area, Chris, is a lot farther in front than some of the other guys you mentioned. They do defend their off stump, and that just gives them a bit more time. So if you're pushing hard at the ball, he would be horrified having to play back to him exactly where he was, actually, in terms of where he was, where the ball passed him, in terms of fifth stump, sixth stump. But as Chris has said, you and I have spoken about it, Norman. When you're not in very good nick, you just want to feel the bat on the ball. So you get yourself in some pretty weird positions. And I see this being quite often a series now. If they're going to be concertina together, then somebody who gets out of nick is going to struggle to find form, unless you do something like Pujara. It'd be quite interesting how these two guys back the next time round, having spent as long as they have in the middle, and hopefully then it becomes even more and more a mental game of, how you're feeling having done that. And it's been a really fluctuating test match. Been really good to watch. But it was always likely to happen that if you're going to go that slowly, then it only takes a couple of wickets to swing it back the other way. So, but they've gone about it as much as they can. Having, as we were talking this morning, Norman, the fair chance they could lose their openers, and what happens after that. So,
absolutely. Now, Chris, who was the person you were talking about? Brian, what was the person you spoke about earlier?
Oh, Ian O'Brien. He played New Zealand, they bowled seam. Probably, this is 10, 15 years ago. They played quite a bit of Test cricket. But
no, he was quick. But he's one of the first guys, Norman, that identified mental well-being. He really suffered mentally to play Test match cricket. So,
right, but he wasn't a batter, was he? Though he was
he was
seam. Yeah,
it was seam bowler. It was quick. He had a few wheels. So I don't know how quick was he when Chris was playing him, but
definitely not as quick as he was, I don't think. But enough for me to play and miss plenty. That's for sure.
It's an art, Chris, playing and missing.
It is. I agree. Yeah.
So he was playing. Sorry, Ian O'Brien was playing on your side or against you?
No, I played against him in a Kent Twos game. He was at Middlesex. I think Stephen Finn played in that game as well, and Toby Roland-Jones played in that game as well. So, and a couple of other Grav will know them. Danny Evans and Robbie Williams played in that game as well, who were pretty. Norman probably wouldn't have heard of them, but reasonable circuit bowlers at the time. Robbie Williams had taken a fair few wickets for Middlesex. So yeah, they had a pretty useful side, and I managed to play and miss my way to 46. I think I got in that first thing, which I was pretty pleased with. But that's a long time ago, and certainly more luck than judgment, I think.
But the quality of club bowlers in the London area, Norman, is a little bit like grade cricket. You'll come against guys who've probably retired, but good enough to certainly play a high level of cricket. So Chris was challenging himself in that environment. And Middlesex and Surrey will have a lot of bowlers who are on the fringes of the professional group, but playing really good club cricket. That's why they've always produced a lot of local talent.
Okay. All right. So at this stage of the match, look, let's be honest. The series so far, the first two Test matches, Chris, in your opinion, you haven't had a chance to talk to me about this. Do you think India were in ascendancy, and do you think India would have won that match?
The first Test, I think they were favourites too. I certainly wouldn't say they definitely would have done it, because you never know what Indian batting side can turn up on a fifth day. It's hard chasing. Might have been overcast. It might have swung around a bit. Anderson and Broad, and different game. They were probably 70-30, I'd imagine, favourites, which, I think England win that first Test probably 2 or 3 out of 10. I think that's probably fair enough. And probably at the moment, I would say England are probably a 65% favourite at the moment. I think India have still got a decent chance if Pant can, get a few runs in the morning. You never know with that England batting lineup. So I would say that England are certainly probably on top, but it's not. I wouldn't say it's certainly a game over. I just think there are couple of interesting shots. What Rohit Sharma was doing, and I know that people jumped down my throat in the chat for it, but he's been out twice hooking. They put 3 men out on purpose the ball before, and next ball he sticks it down deep mid wicket's throat, like just a rubbish shot. No, I'm sorry, that's just inexcusable.
But even Chris, the sixes he's hit are not under control.
Yeah,
they could easily go straight up in the air.
I'm not disagreeing with you about Sharma's batting there, Chris, but his 83 in the first innings was excellent.
It was excellent, but we're not talking about the first innings. We're talking about if Joe Root goes out tomorrow and runs down a wicket to Bumrah first ball and tries to hoik one and gets bowled, I'd say it was a crap shot as well. His 83 was very good, but you just can't. You've got to be better than that. They haven't even 5 overs and surprised him with it. The ball after they've stuck 3 men out, he's literally stuck it straight on my nose. I just think Test cricket, you've just got to be a bit better than that. These guys are at the top of their game, and India this series have been very lucky that they have got platforms, and if he knows that middle order is out of form, maybe you just got to be a bit better than that. And he's a guy that has a massive point to prove. the world record holder for the biggest difference in average between home and away. I think his difference in average is 51 between home and away. Second of all time is 33. So he's miles clear of this. And, he's got a massive point to prove. And, the hardest thing in England, which he struggled out before, is getting in. And he's got in again today on a pretty flat wicket, let's be honest. Wasn't doing much at all. And I think he'd just be disappointed with the way that he got out.
Yeah, because that full-back position of going around the wicket with 3 men out is a fair indication that the wicket's not doing anything. And you've got to be prepared, I think, to take a few hits, really, because I just don't think you can control the hook shot once it gets chest high. Not the way they're sent. You've got a leg slip, and you've got 3 stuck out in different positions. Bat pad, and in the end, you've got to have a Steve Waugh approach, which is actually just get out of the way, out of the way, and keep your hands down, because it's just so high risk, and all you're going to get for is a single. It's a little bit in sort of my world, people who keep trying to reverse sweep when you've got 2 guys behind square, so.
But the difference certainly has been in both sides. Joe Root, he's 180 in this match at a pivotal moment when, in fact, I would argue that India were in front of that stage well and truly. His 180 was a superlative performance, and you take that score down to a 20 or something, Chris and David, you would have had India in ascendancy at this stage of the match. But the reality is, up until about halfway through this match, India were in charge. And now they've lost all way because of the fact that Root has taken it upon himself to score that 180 not out. It was a magnificent.
I would disagree slightly. I think India are in charge from day one. Apart from that, I don't think they've been in. I think England have been ahead of the game since in day one. England took 8 for 7 wickets for 60 odd runs at the start of day 2, and then batted through day 2. So India certainly dominated day 1. But apart from that, I would say England have been on top since. Yeah,
but they gave away that advantage within 1 hour of day 2.
Exactly.
By allowing England to take the wickets they had. They did really well because the weather conditions were not as batter friendly as they have been the last couple of days. And they've flirted with having a little bit of a control, like sort of, I don't know, 3/4 of an hour from the end, 160 for 3. That was actually quite a strong position for them to be in, but that was soon evaporated by losing 3 for 20.
So, yeah, they lost 3 for 30 off the last 10 overs, as a matter of fact. Yeah. It's an intriguing stage of the match. If Punt can show his wares tomorrow and go for it, which I'm sure he will. He was rather conservative this afternoon, but I think tomorrow he'll go out.
Well, he's in the catch-22 position, isn't he? He knows he's the last batter. It'll be quite interesting to see if England take the new ball, because the new ball will, if he can. I just don't see him being able, unless Chris has got some evidence otherwise, to be able to manufacture the strike in the way that Sam Curran does. Is in terms of exploiting the first 4 and hitting it. He's got a chance because he's left-handed, but Sam has made a bit of a habit of being able to wring out as many runs as possible from having tail-enders at the end who are good enough to block, and that's all they have to do. Is that they just have to be able to block a couple of balls and over. They might get caught down the striker's end if the striker who's in can't rotate the strike. But I just see Pant being a little bit a bit too emotional in what happens. But we'll see. I think England will think twice about taking the new ball, because it can.
You think they're going to think twice? That's interesting.
He could fly around for 4 or 5 overs, and the closer it gets to 200.
Yeah,
as the West Indies are currently finding out in Jamaica against Pakistan, that things can change pretty quickly.
Well, that's interesting. You talk about that because West Indies are 3 for 39.
They were three for about 11.
At one stage, right? Well, they've inked out 3 for 39 at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've got 129 to get in that match, which is interesting. Very interesting match.
So you
Stage of
didn't
the
go
game.
today, Chris? Did you just go on the first day?
Yeah, I went on Thursday. I was all day yesterday. I was considering it, but I had to go into London last night into Shoreditch for a stag do. So I wasn't particularly hungover this morning or anything, but just was quite tired and grabbed some food and just sort of sat on the couch and watched the football as well. So, but yeah, enough of a trek in, today. So I just thought I'd just watch it on the sofa. So
you didn't watch the 100 ball game last night?
No, I heard it was a good one though. I'll be honest. I was always fairly optimistic with it. I know I was always open minded to it. I actually quite enjoying it. I'm as a big a purist as anyone really. I went to a game at the Oval a couple of weeks ago. We've got a friend who plays for the Welsh Fire. He got us tickets. I just see it as 2020 cricket. I'm really. I think it's good. I really think, and I think people are buying into it in this country, and I think it's a good thing.
There's some really, I would have to say, Norman, there's some really good features. For instance, one that I've been really impressed with. I've never really felt that how the game deals with slow over rates has never really been very effective. But actually, the rule they've got in the 100 ball game is, in other words, you lose one of the right to have one of the guys on the boundary. He's not taken off the pitch, but he's got to come into the circle. So once that happens, you're basically reproducing what might happen at the beginning of the innings. And also a really good feature is that if somebody gets out, the new batsman faces the next ball. Doesn't matter where it goes, but he faces the next ball. Because sometimes rotating somebody gets out and then the informed batsman gets down to the other end, then you've not necessarily lost anything. So there've been a couple of good things like that. What do you think, Chris?
Yeah, no, I agree. I get I really like you have to bring a man inside the circle if you're short of your over rate. I like that a lot. I get the crossing on a catch, but I don't think it adds too much difference. But I don't dislike it. I just quite like the franchise, the way they've done it, and I think that I think it's been pretty widely well received. If that makes sense.
Does the game go on a lot? Does it effectively shave time off the match?
Well, you can, if you're doing it for TV, Norman, as you will know, if you're ever for American sport, they have to stay to the timing in terms of schedules. So, and this country is no different. So yeah, I think it's made people hurry up. I think there's definitely a noticeable, getting around as fast as you can to make sure we don't have that penalty. Because there used to be like 6 runs penalty or whatever. Well, first of all, it doesn't make any difference really, and the crowd don't know what's going on. This is very easy for the crowd to understand, and I think the 100 ball game is being presented as very much a user-friendly type of thing. Because I've seen
can you tell me
games when they've tried to penalise the side for 6 runs for a slow over rate at the end of a really tight game, and it is utter chaos. Players don't know what's going on. Certainly, the crowd don't know what's going on. So, this is a really good. I think a really good innovation. I personally would like to see and this is really only a personal, selfish view. Current terms, we have 8 franchises. A lot of them are quite logical in terms of sort of Kent being attached to Surrey, by proximity. But there's a couple that don't really make sense. For instance, Lancashire is a standalone franchise, yet Yorkshire and Durham are joined together. I would suggest they need to be separate. They each have a team of their own. And then, and this is the one that's really personal to me, is that Somerset, Gloucester, and Glamorgan are joined together, has been the Welsh Fire that Chris was alluding to. I think the Welsh should have one on their own, because they are after a country on their own. And actually, Somerset and Gloucester being joined together would be a logical way to represent the Southwest. If you're trying to sell crickets for the 100 ball game, and you're standing in the middle of Bristol, you're not going to sell tickets for people to go to Cardiff to watch the game. It's just not a logical step.
You could give Scotland a franchise as well. I don't if that might strengthen Scottish cricket or Irish cricket. There's no reason why, or they couldn't enter as them. I think that would be quite a decent idea. You obviously need some thought, but you're then strengthening cricket in other parts of even global cricket, really, aren't you? If Scotland and Ireland were to compete, I would imagine that would be a decent thing to have.
Right.
But again, this is an ECB run event, is it not?
Actually, it is to a degree, Norman. But actually, I think the organisation, the central board of the 100-ball game, and certainly in the franchises, they are separate from the ECB. They run their own business. So
okay.
But we should.
But yeah,
what's your? I forgot what your football team is, Chris. Which one's that?
I'm the red side of Merseyside.
Very good. We are on the same page then.
Yeah.
So tell me about that. What's the results? What have been the results this weekend for those?
Well, there's a big shock in the football this afternoon, actually. Tottenham beat Man City, the ever-spending Man City 1-0, which is a big result. But apart from that, I think results went fairly much as expected. I don't think any big shocks, Grav, were there?
Well, Brentford beating Arsenal. That was
true, yeah.
Which was a great occasion, given the last time they played against each other was 47 years ago. And Brentford, as somebody has described them as, were the ground next to a particular bus stop somewhere south of the river. So they've built a brand new ground, and the atmosphere. But as you can imagine, the atmosphere would have been fantastic anyway. But given the fact that nobody's been able to watch live sports, and I think that's actually rebounded on the 100-ball game. I think people have just genuinely wanted to get out and just watch live sport. So,
yeah.
And I'm disappointed, Chris, you haven't asked about the mighty South Sydney Rabbitohs that are running equal second at the moment, having won 10 matches in a row.
So only second.
Sorry?
So second's first runner-up, isn't it?
But hang on a minute. It's not, no, we play semi-finals, beg your pardon. So we're actually in a great position or we'll be in the top three leading into the semis, which it really is the top four. It's a great position to be in. We look like we're on the way to a potential grand final against Melbourne with everything going well, which would be great.
But what would be your side in playing county cricket? Sorry to interrupt, Norman. If you're following a county, which county is that, Chris?
Me, I guess I would follow Kent. I was born in Surrey and raised, I moved down to Kent when I was 6. I follow Kent now. I live here. I've had a lot of my mates who I played with, growing up and age group stuff who have played for Kent, who still do play for Kent. Yeah. Very good mates with Daniel Drummond, opened the batting with him for years. I know I've played with Billings quite a bit, Blake, Matt Coles, when he was there. But I think county cricket's struggling a little bit. I think that someone like Darren Stevens, who's clearly a phenomenal athlete and is brilliant at what he does, but the fact that he's still dominating county cricket at 46, 47 is probably 50% how good he is and 50% at where county cricket is as a level. I follow Derby a bit now. I said one of our previous overseas players, Leas Deploy, who's now playing for the Welsh Fire. He's one of our very good friends. So I just take an all-round look at it. I guess, it's nice to see Kent do well and see some people that I've played against or with do well, but I just like to see that as a more of how do you improve the standard of cricket there as opposed to being really tribal about who I support, if that makes sense.
Well, they need to sort out the season when people are playing. It's saying to Norman, when you ask sort of where the England get any replacements if they were considering it, it's very hard because who's played red ball cricket in the last 6 weeks?
Yeah, no. Darren Stevens, just quickly, you mentioned him there, both Chris and Dave. Why didn't he play higher level cricket?
I just don't think he's ever been good enough, really. And I don't mean that in a bad way, but he just never.
He makes the best use out of the ball we use in this country, Norman, which allows people of, I would say, lower than medium pace to open the bowling and be quite effective for that. And he does it very well. What I didn't realise until about a month ago, he is a phenomenal golfer. He's actually a +3 handicapper. So he tees up as an amateur and is basically saying that I will play 3 shots better than the par of the course, right from the first hole. So
pretty impressive.
Very impressive.
All right. So okay, at this stage of the match, again, you've said Chris and David probably agrees that it's 65% or thereabouts to England and the rest to India. Are you predicting an England victory?
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm confident. I think England, if England could wrap it up in the first half hour, 40 minutes tomorrow, I think they would comfortably knock off 160, 170, 180. If anything over 200, I think it starts to make it more interesting just for scoreboard pressure and everything. But yeah, I don't think I'm an optimistic fan, and I think that England will get the job done.
Well, as we said, I think they're 152 in front at the moment, 154 in fact.
I think no one how many wickets they lose. So it doesn't relieve the pressure on Sibley, and a little bit with Hamid, as I said to you before. It's obviously you feel for a bloke who gets out first ball, but I don't see him being binned. And Burns played reasonably well, but I think the one who is under pressure is Sibley.
Yeah.
Well, Sibley was under a lot of pressure back against New Zealand and inked out a 60 in the last innings there, which made him survive into this series.
But there's a lot of it around, isn't there? Batsmen trying to maintain their position by survival more than anything else. So.
The problem is if Sibley goes, which I don't disagree with, Hamid will go up to open. Who bats three? Pope? Does Pope come in and bat three?
Well, he's just come back. But again, he's been playing white ball cricket. The problem has always been, Chris, and it's not going to alter now, definitely not, about the argument whether Root should bat 3 or 4. Well, I think he's proven to the world that 4 is the position he has to bat. So 3 becomes a really difficult hold. I personally would go back to, just shuffling the pack a bit different. I would go back to Crawley. Just give him a bit of a break for a game, give him a different batting position to play. It wasn't that long ago that he was getting huge hundreds. So
he's
and everybody likes his technique. If you're comparing over 3 of them, he probably has the better technique.
But I think they really like Crawley, and I think they would have definitely wanted to drop Sibley or remove Sibley before Crawley, but Crawley's position has been pretty much untenable. I think he's averaged 11 in the last year of Test cricket. How can you keep going? I mean, it's easy to say, well, he's a good player, we're going to stick with him, but at what point do you say, well, enough's enough, we've got to try something else? And I feel a bit sorry for Hamid. The guy's opened his batting the whole life, and then you stick him in at 3. And I know it's not much difference batting at 3, especially the way England have been batting over the last couple of years, but the guy's an opening bat.
One ball, Chris, actually, most of the time.
Yeah, we'll stick him in at the top. He's an opening bat, let him open batting.
Yeah.
So who are you saying? Are you saying Crawley should open the batting?
No, I'm saying if you're going to go back to Hamid, then, you probably get Crawley back in the top, don't you? So
the only way it could alter is the only way it could alter, and Chris has mentioned Pope, who was doing reasonably well, is that the bet at best though goes to 3 and Pope comes in at 5. It's just the way that the best though plays, that might be challenging for him. But, we'll see.
Okay, give me your ultimate top order then, Chris. We'll start with you, and then we'll go to David. Who would you have if you had selection responsibility?
Yeah, I mean, I'd definitely have Burns. I think he's proven that he can play. He's been playing well this season. I think it would be Burns, Hamid, Crawley, Root, I guess.
Does winning or losing the match make a difference, Chris, at all?
I think from what I've read in the papers or listened to I think that Sibley's going to get most of the series. I think they've said that he's going to stay in. And I don't mind that. I think that India are taking that view as well. I think that, it could have been pretty easy to can Pujara or Rahane. But then again, with Gill and Agarwal out, who do you go to? They've got no one there. They've been so lucky that Rahul's in form and has turned up because, Rahul was a second thought. He literally was there to make up numbers, really, as a squad member. And for him to come in and be the best player must be fantastic, because where would they be without that 100 in the first innings? I don't mind that they give him time. I get the impression that that Sibley might have at least another test, and winning a test does matter. England haven't won a test in 7 games. and you don't like changing a winning side. And Sibley is frustrating and he's ugly to watch, but he does do a Pujara role sometimes that he can just blunt 100 balls back for 20 runs. And I'm not saying it's what you want, but occasionally it can do a job. And I don't know. I wouldn't be against the idea if you're going to play Bairstow. And technically he's pretty sound. And if he's gone away and worked his game, for the Ashes, why not have Bairstow at 3, Root 4, Stokes 5? You could have all of them in there, and then work out who you're going to open with. Because I'm not necessarily saying I would have played Bairstow because I think he struggled, but he's a good player, and he on those quicker wickets in Australia, when the ball isn't, he's had a massive problem being bowled. In Australia where you don't get bowled as much, you nick off. He might just cope a bit better.
Now, a lot of the commentary here is about the Indian side of things as well. There have been comments that I think STUP, I'm going to guess that's something to do with Rahane. They're saying he's back. So I would say Rahane's 61 today was pretty reasonable. Don't you think?
No,
Sorry, say that again. I lost my...
Now, Rahane's performance today has allowed him to continue to be in the side. It was a good enough innings to warrant his selection.
Yeah. But the problem is, I think that if you're going to drop Rahane, Pujara probably goes first. I don't think Rahane is the first one to get canned. But who comes in? What other batters have India got in that squad with Gill and Agarwal out injured? So,
well, Agarwal's back now. Apparently, he's no longer injured. Agarwal's available. Fahari is the other one who is worthy of consideration at that point. But
I think in England, against this bowling attack on these wickets, I would be sticking to tried and tested. Rahane and Pujara have played a lot of cricket in England, have scored Test hundreds and county hundreds. I would be very reluctant to change it because I don't think that those boys are going to be able to come in and play the bowling. I think that you just got to stick with it for this series and just hope that they come good.
And Pujara's played at Yorkshire. He's played for Yorkshire. He didn't get a lot wrong.
Yeah, so he's had great. He's had a lot of county experience. You're right. Now we've been drawn by Naresh Marshall.
He got marginally more than Yuvraj Singh got for Yorkshire.
Now listen, Naresh is here to balance the ledger here. Chris and David, we've got some Indian influence here. What do you think of today's performance today, Naresh?
Hello, Chris. Hello, David. Good evening.
How are you? Good to see you.
Same here. Thanks, Chris. Norman, mixed feelings on the performance. The first session was quite average for India. It went England's way. I think post-lunch was a very good recovery, especially Rahane and Pujara, who are under a lot of pressure on their performance. I think 3 hours of good cricket, the entire post-lunch and 1 hour after tea, and then losing Pujara and then Rahane and Jadeja once again going towards England's favour. So they are a bit ahead. 154, it shouldn't be like the final where there's less runs and more time in hand for England to chase. So that is a bit tricky for India. They would have liked one of these 3 to play along with Pant tomorrow morning. Rather, they would have preferred Pujara or Rahane to stick. So losing 4 or 5 wickets a day would have been enough. But I think we've lost 1 or 2 more. It's a tricky situation to be in. Would like to see them play the first session. It's a complete tail for Pant. Root was going in for the new ball. That's why the play got called off. So he's definitely starting off with the new ball. Not sure if Wood will be fit, but Anderson and Robinson would be good enough. Pant depends how much strike. He needs to keep maximum strike and try to get at least past 200 target to be given to England.
Well said. In terms of Anderson, Chris and David, as well as Naresh, interesting, he didn't take a wicket in the second innings so far.
He's just awesome, isn't he? No, I don't know how he keeps getting better and better, and I think people just run out of things to say. Really, no, he's just been fantastic, and I think that been really impressed with Robinson as well. I think he looks like a proper Test match bowler. I think he'll bowl very well in Australia. You know, he doesn't bowl many balls that hits the stumps at the moment. And, you know, I think in Australia, if he can nibble that Kookaburra around a bit, you know, I think that he'll be nicking some people off. And he looks the part, doesn't he? Woods bowl very well. But yeah, you know, I think we're fairly realistic and interesting what Naresh thinks. But, you know, I thought that Pujara and Rahane batted nicely, but the game wasn't progressing. You know, it was fine. England weren't losing. There was no damage being done to England when they were just crawling along. And you had 2-3 quick wickets on, like we did in the evening session, and England are still on top. You know, if Kohli had batted instead of Pujara for a session, there's another 60, 70 runs on the board. And, you know, and allowing Moeen Ali to settle in and bowl, or Curran just to bowl 10 overs for 18 or 19, I think you just need to have a little bit more a positive intent. I'm not saying go out and do a Rishabh Pant and just try and, you know, swing at everything. I'm just saying a little bit more positive intent to put the pressure on. And I think India would probably be in a better position. But at the moment, because of how slow the game progressed, England is still on top.
Yeah, I agree, Chris. But, you know, this is how Pujara has been playing. Yes, there have been talks about he, you know, playing off a lot of dot balls, which he did today also, 206 balls for 45. But I don't think anything has changed in Pujara. That's how he has played. Probably today it demanded the most for Pujara to play so much of time. And he's under pressure. He's not been scoring runs for few innings. So somewhere it felt that Pujara and Rahane did well to play out the day. You know, there was a risk that we may be bowled out during the day itself. So, but yeah, I agree. Virat Kohli would have been a difference if he had played a longer inning. You know, he's making the same mistake every inning by going too far ahead outside the off stump and going for the push towards the ball and edging it. So he and Rohit Sharma, their natural instinct needs to be controlled a bit. They play their favorite shots, and that's letting them down.
So there's a comment here, guys, and I want to entertain this discussion as well. Sachin Sharma, which is an interesting combination of names. Is he a hybrid of Sachin Tendulkar and Rohit Sharma? Hey, Norman, do you think India are capable of winning this test on the final day? What do you think? Realistically, there is a chance they could win. If England were to collapse, they could win. But
there's always a chance, Norman. But as Naresh is saying, that the scale swung dramatically in the last hour. That if you'd walked off and it was 160 for 3, then India would definitely be in a position where but they paid the penalty, as Chris has alluded to, not going fast enough. You will lose wickets from time to time, but at no time was there any pressure on the bowlers. In that situation, it's control. As I said to you this morning, the scoreboard has to keep moving. If it doesn't move, the bowlers will they'll just be not under any pressure. So if they're not under any pressure, they will bowl better as they progress. So that's just the rules of the game, really. So I personally, unless Pant does something that he did in Australia, and at the same time play with that youthful aggression, but also in a controlled manner, which I think will be very difficult for him to do, then I think that England will be chasing something around even under 200. The figure 200 is actually quite psychological, but the weather is set fair for tomorrow. It's not. The wickets obviously are doing a little bit, but not a lot. So I think England hold all the cards at present.
I think the only way that India can win the test is if England collapse. There's no way that India or Kohli is going to declare any. He's never going to give England a chance to win the game. He's not going to declare leaving 230 in front with 2 sessions. If India bat that long enough, if Pant bats, he's going to bat England out of the game, and I think that England will just on a pretty flat wicket. It looks like a wicket that you can't just blow sides out. That England will just block it out. So the only way that India can win, in my opinion, is if we need 200 and get bowled out in a session. If Bumrah and co just run through us and we bat very poorly. So that's the only way I think India can win it, because I know that England's batting has been pretty crap in the last 2 years. But I don't see it happening unless England just blow up. The only way that, does that make sense?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
If Kohli is in a position to even think about declaring, he's won the lottery to get to that position. So that is not going to happen. So.
Yeah, but looking at how Moeen Ali bowled today, I think Jadeja has a huge part to play tomorrow. Even if it is 180, 200 to chase, there is a possibility that England may go 4, 5, or 6 down chasing those runs. And Jadeja would be very important because he has been underutilized so far in this series. Probably tomorrow is a day. Yes, we will miss Ashwin. Probably that's a gamble of not taking him in the 11. But then Jadeja has to be given a lot of overs tomorrow because
he does,
somewhere there is.
but he's not. Chris will tell you that actually Moeen is an extraordinary bowler now. That actually he's more dangerous when he's selected as a backup spinner on sort of bowl a bit of spin when he's got a shed load of seamers than when he's actually selected as an out and out spinner to play on a spinning wicket. He finds that it's pressure. And often England have had to play 3 spinners to accommodate the failings of their spin options, albeit against people who can play spin really well. So, and I think that the Lord's wicket, in terms of it has become a lot drier because of the drainage system than it has in the past. So those wickets he was bowling to Rahane that dusted and went through the top. That will happen because all the seamers are bowling around the wicket, and you've also got a left arm seamer in terms of Sam Curran. So the combination of Sam Curran and off spin actually goes well quite nicely, and that obviously is not happening for India to do. I think Jadeja, and I've said on this to Norman, I think he's an outstanding cricketer. When Duncan Fletcher was coach of India, he thought he was the best player in the team. But you're right. All spinners need to bowl, and he will give it his best. But I think he's really effective now. Ironically, if Ashwin is at the other end, they're hunting pairs.
Yes. They have done very well as a pair because Jadeja skids through, and little bit there is variable bounce on the pitch. So probably the 5th day. He would be effective, but all depends how he's utilized. And as you say, the other end, that partnership of a bowler is also required. And Ashwin and Jadeja together have done very well.
Yeah, they're good. So I don't want to sound too much a pessimist on India's Independence Day, but I think the last 50 minutes will have made a difference to the game as a whole. But then 50 minutes of pants tomorrow morning could also rectify that. So.
But there's no doubt, Naresh, that India picked the right side. Surely no one in the Indian media is saying that Ashwin and Jadeja should have played in the 2 tests. Jadeja's done nothing. He's batted nicely, but he's not taking any wickets. So surely no one's saying they should have played 2 spinners because the seamers have done a very good job. They've taken the 2 seamers that probably would have missed out in those 2 tests if Ashwin had played, have been the best 2 bowlers, really, haven't they? Siraj and Sharma have bowled very nicely. So at least India picked the right side and they learned from their mistakes from the World Test Championships, I guess.
That's a very good point. India have improved this side.
Yeah, historically,
if the weather improves, if the weather stays dry, Naresh, then the next 3 tests they would be in a position that if you're going to win the toss and bat first, then that's the position to have 2 spinners, because the wickets were and the overhead conditions were like here at Lord's. They can't go in with just 3 seamers. Otherwise, they could find themselves really undermanned if they're not careful.
Yeah.
And also, I know he didn't get any run in second innings, but he does give the batting lineup a better looking to it in terms of left-hander, and he is a dangerous batsman, Jadeja.
Yeah, in both the tests, he came in a situation and was left with the tail. So he got a 50 at Trent Bridge, and this time he got a 40 in the first inning. So that way he has fulfilled his role, of a batsman who can bowl in the low order. So he's done well. But yeah, historically, Ashwin has always been the first choice spinner overseas. It's only at home when both Jadeja and Ashwin complement each other. So I think that came as a surprise to many that, like Ashwin was a given in the side. He had to start. He was the highest wicket taker for India in the last Test Championship cycle. So 2 tests without Ashwin, especially 4th day at Trent Bridge and yesterday 3rd day here. the way Joe Root was batting is where people felt that Ashwin is being missed, and I think basically we are struggling getting Joe Root out. That's what's running on the mind here.
We're not wishing to be rude, Naresh. It does look like from the outside.
I actually think that I think Jadeja's a better cricketer than Ashwin all round. If I had to pick one of them to be on my side, I'd have Jadeja every day of the week.
Yeah.
As a left arm spinner, especially, he's a miles better bat. I actually would have, and I'm going to be controversial here, I would bat Jadeja at 6 and let Pant bat at 7. I think Jadeja sets his stall out to bat properly, whereas Pant comes in and is more aggressive. I'd rather have a proper player who can construct things at 6 and then allow Pant to come in and play more of a natural game at 7 than let Pant, some of the shots Pant plays, second ball in the first innings ran down the wicket to Anderson. I mean, he's got balls on him, but he's not going to score many runs against Anderson doing that. So I'd just rather have Jadeja at 6, let him play a proper innings, and then let Pant do what he wants at 7. If I'm making sense, but there's no doubt that
actually a lot of people agree with you. A lot of people agree with you, Chris. I think that's quite a common thought that actually allows Jadeja to bat higher. I agree with that.
Well, I think if you're batting with an established batsman and Jadeja bats the way he normally bats, you wouldn't be quite as unnerved as you might be as Chris was alluding to. That Pant runs down to the second ball he faces and tries to, hit it straight over the side screen. That does tend to unnerve the non-striker doing that. So.
Yeah.
Well, admittedly, the way that Pant batted this afternoon was a little bit different, wasn't it?
Yeah, well, he's
a bit more conservative.
He's an amazing talent. He's a young man. You don't want to suppress, his freedom of playing. He will learn that actually sometimes he's got to curb it, do something slightly different because you want to be out in the middle. You don't want to be sitting in the pavilions, or as they are at present stage, sitting in front of the pavilion at Lords. But there you go. Norman, I'm going to have to peel off.
All right. Well, thanks, David.
Yes, I'm going to as well in a sec.
Okay.
Especially if you've got Alam Alali coming on.
Yeah.
No, he's not coming on.
I've already registered a complaint.
Good.
No worries. But, David, thank you very much.
Of our contribution, Chris, so don't worry.
Perfect.
Well, it was great to have David, a double header from David. He was on the pre and the post.
I know.
And one day it was a fantastic effort.
Anyway, I will see you later.
Good to see you, Grav.
Thanks, David.
It's good to see you again.
You too, mate.
Same.
And nice to meet your dad as well.
Oh, well, yeah. I'm sure you don't mean that. Most people don't,
No,
but I'm sure he'll be pleased.
Oh, don't be silly.
No, it's good. See you later, guys. I'm looking forward to receiving
Thanks,
the
David.
hat, Chris, as well, by the way.
Actually, before we go, have you got David's hat, Chris?
Somewhere. Yeah, it's in the box.
What do you mean somewhere?
Well, I don't know. I have people knocking on the door all the time saying, "Are you from Norman's show?" I have truckloads of people coming down, especially the expat Indian fans in this country. I can't walk down the high street without asking if I know Norman Kochnak. So I've had to it got rested off me.
All right.
No, but okay,
later,
let's make this clear on air. You have David's hat, and you will give it to him.
I'll try.
No, it's all right. I'm going to meet up with Chris face to face at some stage.
Exactly.
Definitely. We're
It's
definitely
going to happen, Chris.
Well, actually,
you have a
can
job
meet
to
Chris.
do.
If you're living in Kent, the under-19s are playing the West Indies in September at Beckenham and Polo Farm.
Perfect. Yeah, Polo Farm. I can definitely come. We'll try and get Wilco there because Wilco lives and coaches about 5-10 minutes from Canterbury, so we could see if Wilco's about.
I speak to him every day and follow his the fledglings business that he's doing. It's really good. Norman, I will see you. Hopefully, see you tomorrow.
David.
At some
Bye,
stage.
David. Bye.
See you for the pre-show, David.
Cheers, Gav.
See you
Thank
later.
you.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
So, Chris, you're not going anywhere. I don't care if you've got to cook 50 cakes. You are on notice for 2 reasons. One, you haven't been here much. Okay, Alan Manali's a factor. He's not here today.
Alan Manali's not been a factor. I've been so busy. The early 2 weeks in August for me are so much cricket and I'm rammed busy, and I just haven't had, and I've had to do work as well. So,
okay, but I'm not getting any excuses for now. You've got squat all to do this afternoon. Don't give me anything about Sunday. You're relaxing, correct?
I'll give 10 more minutes, and I've got to eat some dinner. That's all. So I haven't. Yeah, we haven't
You're
eaten.
talking about eating. I haven't eaten either, and it's bloody 4 a.m.
Well, that's not my. That's your fault. That's not my fault.
It's not my fault. Okay, now just look on the basis of. Yeah, please give. David actually has been asking you that quite a few times, Chris. So he obviously is waiting for it. Please
Yeah,
don't.
I'll meet him in September when he's down, and I'll give him it then.
September, what, 2023 or something?
Well, it's 2 weeks away, September, isn't it?
It's okay. All right. Now, have you been impressed with the way England's played the 2 tests?
I think generally fairly. I just think we need to sort this batting lineup. Same as India, really. I've said for the last 3 or 4 months we've done it. The bowling attacks are probably in terms of depth. Us, New Zealand, and India have got by far and away the best seam attacks in the world in terms of depth. Australia have got 3 or 4 very good ones, but India have got Umesh Yadav sat on the bench, running drinks on. He could easily be playing in that side, and no question would be asked. Bhuvi Kumar doesn't even get on the plane. And England have got so many. Chris Wokes injured, not even played a Test match for a year. Other guys like that. So I've always said that the bowling would look after itself. It's just which batting unit from India or England would bat better, and it's been fairly even so far, hasn't it? Really, over the 2 tests so far, you'd say that India probably just edged it in the first. We don't know what would have happened in that last day, but 60-40, 60-40, 70-30, India probably do knock that off. But in this test, you would say that England have just had the slight upper hand as well, and England have probably take out a couple of bad sessions. I would say that England have probably just edged it bowling as well, but not by much. It's nothing in it. But yeah, I think England are working it out slowly, but we just need to find a solution to that top 3. And if we can add Stokes back in, and find a guy at the top who can bat, then we've got a pretty useful test side there, I think.
So, okay, what about Ben Stokes for a minute? You've just brought him up, and Chris Wokes. Ben Stokes is indefinitely out of the side, correct? He's not playing the series at all.
No, I imagine that he'll be back for the Ashes. I don't know this at all. I'm guessing that he might have gone to him and said, "This is what's happening." They might have said, the T20 World Cup, we don't need you hugely. You're not, you're going to bat 6, and his role in the 2020 side has been bat in the middle order and bowl the odd over. They've probably taken a view and said, although we would love you to play, we can. Liam Livingstone is probably going to play in that slot instead. They're probably saying, we would love you there, but we can get by without you. So take that time off and try and be fit for the Ashes series where we desperately need you out there and fit and firing. So I would be very surprised if we don't see Ben Stokes at the Gabba come late November.
So the Stokes, Wokes and Folkes group might get back together then for the Ashes. Is that what you're suggesting?
I don't know. I don't know if they play Wokes in the Ashes. He's a very good England bowler. I imagine that Anderson, Wood, Robinson, Stokes, and a spinner is probably quite a decent attack in Australia. I think Ollie Robinson's the real deal. Jimmy Anderson just seems to be getting better wherever he's playing. And I imagine Broad probably misses out, or they'll rotate Broad and Anderson around wherever they go in Australia. But yeah, I imagine it'll be Wood and Robinson will get the gig, because I think that they just add something different. Wood is that extra bit pacey, and Robinson is I look at him bowl, and someone at Lord's mentioned it on Friday. He just looks like Josh Hazlewood. His action, the way he tries to bowl, hit that length, nick people off. And I think he actually played at Josh Hazlewood's club in Australia. So I think he's learned a lot from Josh Hazlewood. So I think
as well as Jason Gillespie, who's with him as well.
Yeah, Sussex as well. So I think that they might go quite well in Australia, Robinson, and it's quite a well-balanced seam attack if that's the options we go with.
And Chris Wokes could be back in this Test series towards the end?
I hope so. Yeah, I really hope so. He's a very good bowler, and he adds that batting. He adds the batting in there as well. He's probably playing in Curran's slot or Robinson's slot, depending on if they might rotate Robinson round for a game and play Wokes. I don't know what they'll do, but we'll have to wait and see.
Well, actually, Root, in one of his press conferences, made it pretty clear, because of Chris Wokes' unavailability for this second test, that Moeen Ali came into the selection.
Yeah, and he's justified, hasn't he? Got a pretty useful 20 or 30 with a bat, and taken a couple of key wickets. So
yeah, but it is. Yeah. So what about Ben Folkes? Just quickly before we get the rest involved, what's with Ben Folkes? He's injured. Will he be the keeper for the Ashes?
I don't know. They like Butler, don't they? So we'll just have to see how they go. I really don't know. I would have him in there, but
But
they
Ben
like
Folks is not
Jesse.
injured. Ben Folks is actually injured. That's why he's not playing this test.
Yeah, no, but I don't know what they'll do because he's always been the guy that comes in when everyone else is out or they're resting or into the subcontinent. So we'll just have to wait and see what happens. I honestly don't know what they'll do with him.
But he's currently injured.
Yeah, I need to go, Norman. I've got a phone call, but I'll try and get back on in a bit. But if not, let's.
Chris, go and take your phone call and come back. I'm going to get annoyed if you don't. You haven't been on there for a while, and please come on. You owe me a little bit of time because you've been very busy. I appreciate that, but you're a valued member of this. So I want your thoughts. So come back after your phone call.
Give me 5 minutes.
Okay,
I'll leave this on.
Okay.
Thanks, Chris. Yeah.
So that's a good way of keeping Chris on. So Naresh, it's good to have you here as well. We needed actually the Indian involvement in this last couple of days has been a bit thin, and I'm wondering whether because India's not playing well that we're a bit less. I'm not saying Siddharth. I'm not saying Gill's not here as well. No, but the reality is it's disappointing. Would you say India's a bit disappointing at the moment?
Yeah, I think except the first day, which was really a good day for India with KL and Rohit Sharma. Yeah, it's been a bit average. I think England has done well. I think the first session on day 2 where India lost all the 7 wickets, I think 88 for 7, they lost out. Since then, India has struggled in this test. And that's where I felt that, yes, there is mixed feedback on way Pujara played today, but I think it was important to play the day which Pujara and Rane helped India, but still I think England is ahead in the game. And that's where I feel that it may just turn out to be a very close game if India can get 200 plus for England to chase.
I mean, to me, it's disappointing about the score, the way that India's played. I'm disappointed because they were in ascendancy for the majority of the first test. Unfortunately, due to weather. They were in ascendancy in the first day of this test match and some of the second day, but have gradually lost the ascendancy to the point where they could lose this match. And that annoys me because, quite frankly, the way that KL Rahul has batted in this game, as well as Sharma, and even the bowling attack's been particularly good, I thought. They've let the game fall out of their grasp in this match, and it's their fault. The first match really wasn't their fault, it was weather. But this match, the way that Root got his 180 not out, even though he batted extremely well, they should have got him earlier. They should have worked out a plan to get him out earlier. I don't quite know what that is, but he was allowed a bit of freedom to get his 180. I'm not saying that Root didn't bat well. He batted extremely well. But I don't think the Indian bowlers did the right thing against him. They bowled a lot of balls on his leg stump, which suited him quite nicely.
Yeah.
And quite wide outside of stump on occasion.
Outside the off stump, yeah. They were quite patchy. There were phases. Yeah, there were phases. Siraj did very well yesterday. But there were phases where Bumrah was doing well, Ishant was doing well. Ishant got 3 wickets. Those two, Moeen Ali and Sam Curran back to back. Shami was average yesterday. They were performing in patches. There was not much consistency, and that's where I feel Jadeja again yesterday I felt was underutilized. But tomorrow he will be very critical. To make this a game of going right till the end for England to chase about 200 odd, Jadeja would be needed. So I think he skids the ball. There was uneven bounce. Moeen Ali was getting uneven bounce. Moeen Ali was getting some turn also. And Rahane and Jadeja, both the way they got out, they could have played forward. They were so indecisive to play that defense shot, and they got out to Moeen Ali.
You see, I'm not really concerned about the way that Pujara and Rahane batted today because, quite frankly, had they got out cheaply, the match would have been over by now. So they have kept the game alive. They had a 100-run partnership, which in any set of circumstances is good. Rahane's got 61 runs. That's not exactly a poor score. And the score that Pujara got 45, even though it was extremely slow, I actually commend those two. I think under the pressure that they are under, they really have now basically, I would argue that those two will stay for the rest of the series now. But the crucial part of this is to not lose this match. And that's my concern. I know I shouldn't be saying this, but Rishabh Pant, I love to death. I know Chris is not a big fan of him, but I think this is ready-made for him. I was actually somewhat impressed with Pant this afternoon because he didn't play as loosely as he has He batted relatively responsibly, and now he knows tomorrow he has to take charge and not lose his wicket and bat as long as he can. And I think we will see a more controlled form of aggression from Punt tomorrow. I think the first half now, he'll play his big shots when the ball's there, but he'll also try his best to not lose wickets and keep the momentum going. Ishant Sharma, although he's not a great bat, is pretty good defensively. He can hang around. I haven't got much faith in Sharma.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing is that he came in when they were spinners. It was Moeen Ali and Root took over from the other end, and he extended the new ball purely because of the bad light, and Moeen Ali was getting turned. But with the new ball tomorrow morning, it will come up well for Pant. He may probably score a bit fast because of the new ball. But Ishant Sharma or even a Shami surviving that, it's going to be very, very critical on how Pant has to play very smart to keep maximum strike, and then try to score at least start with 3 or 4 and over, and then see if he can get to attack a bit. Because if India can play the first session tomorrow, there is a possibility even to save the game, because then we are talking about more than 100 runs per session for England. So have already deducted, but that happened in the first test, right? ICC has deducted 2 points in the first.
I don't think it's this match. No, I don't think it's this match.
Yeah, okay. After the game, that will happen after the game. The over rate deduction happens after the game is over. But I still feel, though England is ahead, there is an element of surprise for tomorrow. We may see some good cricket. Yeah.
But see, the point is, honestly, it's ready made for tomorrow morning for Rishabh Pant. A new ball, he controls the stroke hopefully successfully, and is aggressive, because England will put you would argue, a relatively attacking field, and that will allow more freedom for Punt to go for it. So against Mark Wood, hopefully he doesn't fall for the same trap that Sharma does, where he plogs it to a deep mid wicket or deep backward square. But I think Rishabh Punt, this is why he's going to be leaving a legacy. What he did at the Gabba could really be repeated tomorrow to an extent. Why? Because if the bowling is new, a new ball's coming on the bat, he could ink out 50-plus runs, which could turn this match into a very interesting one. India need at least 200. They're 154 at the moment. They need 200, hopefully 220, to really make this interesting. With 154 or 170, if they lose wickets quickly tomorrow, is not going to be enough. They need that magical 200. I think David mentioned that as well. They get to 200 or 220, which Punt's capable of doing. Punt should really. I don't know whether from ball one. I can't say it would be from ball one, but he needs to. But it could be ball one. It's Rishabh Punt. He might say,
Anderson,
brand new ball, let me have it. Bang, bang, bang.
Anderson is going to start. He steps out to Anderson. Wood depends whether Wood will be fit to bowl tomorrow morning. But you'll have Robinson at the other end. So Anderson and Robinson.
Was Wood injured?
Yeah, he got injured the second half today, or rather the last hour. While sliding to stop a boundary, I think fell on his shoulder, bowling arm shoulder. He was off the field. He put a bandage and he came back, but he was off for a long time. So the umpire said he can't bowl. But we don't know whether morning he will be right up for bowling. So, but it's either Wood, Anderson, or Robinson. It's not going to be easy against the new ball. And Punt will have to be very, very smart tomorrow morning on how he approaches. Because he has to get some runs, he has to bat time, and he has a tail with him, So the 3 situations he's in.
Well, this is ready-made for Rishabh Pant. This is it. This is a moment where, let's just be flippant a bit here. Say if he went whacking, got a century tomorrow morning. He went absolutely berserk in the first hour and a half and got a century. And then India put England at bat and they put lots of pressure on. This could turn the match completely around and he could become a match winner. He's capable of doing this. I know Chris has been quite damning, and most people are damning about him going a second ball and trying to hit Anderson and getting the ball over, I think it was over cover in a rather loose shot. It's true. It looks bad on occasion. Even the World Test Championship is a bit loose. But then that could turn that rocks to diamonds scenario. And I think that his mindset has to be clear tomorrow. Whatever he does with volition. He's not half-half. He's got to either go for it or play conservatively early on. But I think he's going to go for the first. He'll go berserk. And I mean, a brand new ball. Not unlike Adam Gilchrist loved the new ball when he used to open the batting, especially in the short form. He loved that new ball coming in the bat. If the field's up, it gives Punt a lot of freedom to play some pretty wild shots with a bit of room to move, and then force England to put the field back with a new ball even to cover that. But by that stage, he may have scored 30, 40, 50 runs. And that could be, he could do that in a few overs and really turn around. And even if they got a 200 to 220 lead and it was still the first session, that may not be good enough. England may still be able to chase it. My only concern is that, or for England at least, is that they were very conservative against New Zealand in that earlier test match where Sibley got 60 after a lot of balls. I don't know whether England are naturally going to be just going for this total. I don't know whether
do you think, assuming it's a 220 with 2 sessions, do you think they would promote Butler or Bairstow?
Yeah, I mean, they could well do that because they have got Butler who can play that way. They've even got Sam Curran who can bat that way, or that Bairstow for that matter. And look, even Moeen Ali can also be quite aggressive. He's proven that as well. I think even in India, was it Moeen Ali who went for it against India?
Yeah.
And it was one of the things he batted particularly aggressively and looked quite impressive.
Yeah,
did he get 50 at that? I can't remember. He batted very aggressively.
Yeah, he was 50. I think 6 or 7 sixes he hit. Yeah.
So you got Moeen Ali, Curran, Butler, and Bairstow. They've got 4 batters that can certainly accelerate the run rate, certainly. So, but the longer that Sibley and Burns are out there, I tell you, that may not happen. Those two are pretty slow. But it's an interesting. I don't think there's a few twists and turns still to occur. I'm just very annoyed that India didn't get a chance to win the first test match, because if they'd won that test match, their attitude may even be more buoyant now. I'm feeling the momentum shifted away from India to England through this test match, and it may continue to shift away from India. That momentum is a big thing for me. India had all the momentum flying in the first match, rained and stopped their momentum. They had the momentum going in the second match with their first day, but the momentum has died off. Again, Root's been the major responsibility there. But to me, India have been, I'd say, 8 out of 10 in front in this test, the 2 test matches. Definitely. If you look at, I think if you go session by session, India have won more sessions in the 2 test matches. I think England have come back, but they haven't quite beaten them yet. But tomorrow could be the telling tale. It frustrates me because
in this test match, you can give more sessions to England. Yeah, this particular test match. Yeah, the first test match were more towards India. Most of the sessions. Yeah.
At least I reckon you'd almost say 3 of the 4 days full play went to India the first. This time probably 2 to 3 to England and 1 to India, which still leaves India a little bit in front, just a little bit. But yeah, I mean, this is. I hope with a person like Kohli, they're going to be aggressive. I reckon Kohli's going to get in punts here and say, "Mate, you do what you think's right. You go for it." I think
that's
Punt
should
not be defensive tomorrow. He was defensive today, understandably, but tomorrow, especially with the new ball, is an actual door open for Punt. It'll suit Punt as long as he doesn't do things really stupidly. He's got to have a slight bit of control, but not a lot.
Yeah.
Let's have a look at some of these comments. Yeah, if they need 60 or 70 runs, I agree. I think they definitely need over 200. And in terms of time, they need probably 220. But see, 220, if you look at the entire test match so far, has any team scored more than 100 in a session?
No, it hasn't happened in this series. Though only when the period when Joe Root is batting, the average is better than the rest of the, when you compare the over rate, or rather they score more than 3. Only yesterday, I think when they started off, Joe Root and Bairstow were scoring fast. They were nearly scoring at 4 or 5 to start with. But you can't expect that on a 5th day right from the beginning. So
That's
yeah,
right.
and
So that means if there's 2 sessions to play tomorrow for England, and they've
yeah,
got more than 200 runs, it's not going to be an easy total to get because of time. The run rates for both tests have been no more than 3 on average. 3 on average will not be enough. Even 4 would probably not be enough per over. They're probably going to be needing up to 5, 4 to 5. And that's going to be interesting to do, indeed. So I think that I don't think England's attitude is to do that. England don't necessarily do that in test matches. They tend to be a bit more conservative in their approach. So I'd be
yeah,
interested
but
to see what
90
happens.
overs, 90 overs, this means India should be batting up at least 30, 35 overs. That is post lunch, which that's the concern, because India has the tail along with Pant. And if England get about 50 overs, 55 overs to chase 200, that's 4, little close to 4. And that's where I feel they may promote one of these, Besto or Butler, to at least give it a try. And then if it is not possible, you have Joe Root or, Hamid may be brought down to just play out the game. But 90 overs is too much and that's where I feel that it's going towards how the final went. There were a lot of runs. There were very less runs for New Zealand, and there was a lot of time in hand. It may turn out to be that kind of a thing. So yeah, it's again the first session very critical. How Pant can play out. Can he play out the first 2 hours? That's going to be very, very critical.
Well, what happened in the first test with the tail? They inked out 70 or 80 runs.
Yeah. 75 runs were scored by them. Okay, Shardul actually got a duck. Shardul is not in this game. So Ishant, Shami, Bumrah, Siraj, if actually they can do what they did in the first test along with
Ishant Sharma wasn't there. Ishant Sharma wasn't there. It was Bumrah,
Yeah.
Siraj, and Shami.
Yeah, and Shardul scored a duck. So it's Ishant, and Ishant did well in the first inning. I think he scored only 8, but he spent a lot of time with Jadeja. So yeah, they need to the tail. We saw it in the first test. We need to see it now. It's more critical at this stage now for them to score, or rather be around Pant. Yeah, very important.
So really, the way that India needed, especially Punt's the key. If Punt can actually farm the strike and bat aggressively, and Sharma that can hold up the other end, and even when eventually Bumrah and Sharma get in, they have a go. It's not impossible to ink out at least 50 runs. It's not impossible.
Absolutely. I agree with you. Yeah.
They have to get over 200. They have to magically go over 200. That's what will be extremely important in terms of the mental state of this last day of play. They need to have at least 200. And 154, they're not that far away, but they could also clap. I think there's a reasonable chance they're going to get to 220. Reasonably good chance, but it's up to Punt. I'd love to see Punt get a big 80 and really take the holders and get it quickly, which means there's still enough time to get England in a bit of trouble. And the pressure will certainly go towards England. England will not be happy if India ink out another 70 or 80 runs.
Yeah.
While you've been away, Chris, I've been very buoyant about India. I've been suggesting Punt will get 80 and that Shami and they'll get 20. What do you think of that? Do you think it's not impossible? I know you're not a Punt fan as much as I am, but
no, of course it's possible. And I am a Pants fan for sure. I think it's just frustrating when you see someone with so much talent to see him almost try and doesn't really care. Like I just wish sometimes, depending on the game situation, just to try and adapt slightly, because as I've said before, it's all well and good when he's scoring runs, but at some point he's going to go for a dip in form. And imagine if India are 100 for 5 at Headingley in the next test, and he comes out and second ball runs down the wicket to Anderson, has a swing and gets nicked off and caught behind. Do you think people are going to say, well, it's his game? Fair enough. If he does it at the Oval and he does it again, it's easy when it's all going well to say, well, it's his natural game. But if he starts going 0, 6, 10 and not getting any runs, and that's when the pressure comes. And it was the same with Ken Peterson, same with other players. It's when everything's going well and, best test match side in the world probably at the moment. it's all rosy. But you just wish that get yourself to 20 or 30, then be really aggressive. Just rein it in slightly because he's got so much talent and he's a brilliant player. And I do like him. I think he's fantastic. But it's I almost think that the perfect player at the moment would be half Josh Butler, half Richard Pant. If Butler had a bit more aggressive, Butler seems to have just done it too much. For someone who is such an attacking, brilliant player, and the top six and no Ben Stokes in that middle order has probably helped because Butler probably feels he has to get his head down because he's not coming in when the score is so as big. He's been under more pressure. You just feel that the perfect mix would be somewhere in between, and what a player that would be. But no, Pant's got every chance. If Ishant Sharma's got a reputation of either getting naught or he might be able to pat back a few balls, and if he can, then you never know what Pant might be able to do. And if I was an Indian fan, I certainly would be thinking that we're up against it. But there's certainly potential for some stuff to go well for sure.
But wait a minute. Look at the way Pant's batted today. Wasn't that arguably a lot more conservative?
A little bit. He's only faced 10, 15 balls, and he still had a couple of run down the wickets and a couple of aggressive
he
shots.
Did run down to Moeen Ali. Yeah, he did do that to Moeen Ali.
But he was, a little bit checkered. He was not checkered. What's the word? He was a little bit controlled today.
Yeah, I think it's more. I don't have a problem as much in second innings or in games like this. It's first innings, setting a game up. You've just lost 3 or 4 wickets for no runs. Like, you're never going to win doing that to Anderson, England. The guys are best in the world. Like, you just have a bit more, give yourself a chance. And as I said, it's fine when you get runs, but when things start going against you, which everyone goes through. Look at Kohli at the moment. Kohli's out of form. If he plays a bad shot when he's got, say Joe Root tomorrow plays an awful shot, everyone go, well, he's been scoring runs, it's fine. If he'd been in the form that Kohli's in and played a bad shot, everyone thinks he should be dropped, he shouldn't be captain. So it's just an example of showing how, when things are going your way, it's okay. But to just make the most of form when you've got it, really. And I love Pant. I think he's great, but I don't know, maybe I just come from that side of things. I just think maybe just try and get yourself in a bit more and then go nuts.
But, look, tomorrow is set for an England victory, we have to say, on the surface, right? But would it be spectacular to see Pant go nuts with an element of controlled aggression and make the game very, very exciting?
I'd rather he didn't.
Of course,
I'd rather he got out first ball tomorrow, if I'm honest, and England chase 140 for 1. But from a cricket point of view, I guess it would be brilliant. I said in the first test, when England were batting well and Root was on 100, I said the best thing that this test can have is if England get bowled out just before the close, leading by 220, 240. Because England otherwise would have batted into day 5 and batted in you out the game. It would have been a boring draw with the weather about. But, the best thing for this test, from a neutral perspective, is probably for Pant to whack a quick 30 or 40, 50 tomorrow and set England 220. That's probably for the most exciting test. Obviously, from England perspective, I hope that they lose 5 wickets in the first 10 minutes and England knock it off easily and we go off to Headingley or, where it might be. But Old Trafford.
What is next? Is it Heading? No, I think it's Old Trafford's Manchester. No, it's Headingley. It's Leeds.
Headingley.
It's Headingley next. Then
Leeds,
we go to the Oval.
Yeah.
We actually end with Manchester.
And with Manchester, yeah. The last one is Manchester. But Chris, other thing we were talking was, the number of overs. 90 overs in a day are real too much. Depends on how many India play. But if, say, a 220 to be chased in 55, 60 overs, would Root shuffle the batting order, look at Butler or Bairstow to come up because of their approach to, say, limited overs?
I don't think so. I think that he'd rather see it and say you need 220 and say 75 overs or 70 overs. You need 3 and over. I think he'd rather say for the first 40 overs, we'll just let Sibley and Burns and go out and just try and set it up. Go at 2 and over, which leaves the other lads to hit 4, 5 and over in the middle. I think that they would want to consolidate the position and set a chase up rather than go out and be positive. Similar to what he did against New Zealand, but he might do, but I don't see it personally. Root's quite a defensive-minded captain. He doesn't make massive. Same as Kohli, really. It's very rare that you see aggressive Test captains anymore. McCullum or Williamson. It's probably the Kiwis are the only ones that really try and advance the game of cricket aggressively. Everyone else is probably more scared about losing the game than trying to win it, if that makes sense. And that's the nature of the beast. That's how it goes. And it's a massive results orientated business, because, Kohli could win 4 test match series. He then loses 2 tests in England and everyone thinks he's the worst captain in the world. So that's just the way that that's the nature of the industry that he's in. But I don't imagine that England will do anything different with the batting tomorrow.
But I would argue the way that they played the testing as New Zealand, where they drew that match when they had the chance to win, that was very poor.
Yeah, I think that was just first test back after nearly a year and a half after with COVID. And, I think that was just a bit more, what do we do? Like, it's been such a weird road. The crowd's back in. I imagine if we played that test match now, having played a few, that there would probably be a different approach to it. I just think that was quite a weird one to work out. But, yeah, I mean,
but you have to argue, regardless of what you described it as and what may have happened, it wasn't their best effort. They could have been more aggressive.
Oh, absolutely, of course, yeah. I'll never say I will never argue that they couldn't have made a better effort. But that was just chasing 270, 280 or whatever it was is a lot different to chasing 200. Psychologically, sides don't do that, and I think that's why I was saying Root as a captain, make sure he doesn't lose that game rather than going out trying to be aggressive, end up 50 for 6, 100 all out. And, the flack that he would have got from the press would have been 10 times worse than, we ended up 150 for 3 and drew the game. So
what was the press like after that? Did they make comment about the fact they could have won? They weren't as aggressive. Was there any discussion with that note?
I think there was disappointment. I think they certainly thought they could have gone for it. But, yeah, look at it. England, I guess the way that the second test match went was disappointing, having lost, but it's the way it goes, isn't it? They didn't lose that game. They could have made a go at it, but that's how it went. So,
all right, Naresh, look, put your positive Indian hat on. Let's hear what you've got to say about what are they going. What are India going to do tomorrow?
I think I have a feeling it's a thriller of a finish. Whatever the score is there to chase, is not going to be an easy chase. I feel, and that's why I feel something about Jadeja is going to be there tomorrow. That's why from the beginning I've been saying Jadeja has a huge role tomorrow.
Now look who's joined us, Chris and Naresh. We've got Munchie suddenly joined us. He's joined the conversation because there was an interesting stump mic conversation, and Munchie needs to talk about this and the people online. Anderson and Kohli went for each other a little bit early on, didn't they?
Yeah, it's just handbags, isn't it? It's just 6 of one, half dozen the other. They're both very fiery competitors. I mean, Kohli's a very big competitor, almost arrogant in the way, what he was doing at the end, waving onto the umpires and the players. You shouldn't be doing that really. And I appreciate the other way around. That's what happens, but nothing was happened. This whole stupid thing about this corpse thing on the outfield. I mean, come on, there's nothing to see there either.
But just on that point, do those bottles that they're popping the corks from onto the ground, are they glass bottles or are they plastic bottles?
They're champagne bottles. The corks thing there has been at Lord's for every year for the last 15 years. That every test that happens, it just maybe one was accidentally landed near Rahul or whatever it was, or it's just been something's been made of it. But the people suggesting that they were trying to hit him on purpose or that it's some kind of racial attack, complete and utter bollocks. No way. It's just one of those things that unfortunately happened today. But the Aussies have had it, the South Africans have had it, Sri Lankans have had it. It's just people sit in the crowd and shoot like to see how far their champagne cork can go, and it just goes onto the field. It's been the case at Lord's for 15, 20 years, and there's nothing more to it than just a bit of silly people. People have been locked up for 2 years. They're just having a good day out, and I'm not saying it's right, but there's nothing more to it than just a bit of fun, really. And whatever happened with Rahul, and I didn't see it. It certainly wasn't anything malicious, I'm sure.
No, but okay, I'm not so much saying it was racist or anything like that, but I'm more concerned about the occupational health and safety side of it. We're not allowed at the SCG to have glass anywhere near the field. Okay, it's pretty much glass free everywhere, for good reason. These bowls of champagne are glass, correct? It's more of a concern about the danger of glass being near a pitch rather than the cork. That's more what I'm suggesting.
Yeah, but this glass, they're 15, 20 feet away from the playing field. It's just when you shoot a cork, it flies off, doesn't it?
The bottles are nowhere
near.
Now. But is there glasses allowed around Lords?
No, well, yeah, you can take bottles in for sure, but
We can't at the SCG. No way.
what is, English people are a bit more well behaved than Australians.
Oh, here we go.
But no, I don't think there's anything to it. And I like, as a cricket guy, I like to see Anderson and Kohli going at it. They've been for years. Anderson had the better of Kohli. Kohli came back and had the better of Anderson here. And cricket's a better game for it. Cricket is better when people are in each other's faces and competing for their country. And, I don't know. I'm sure nothing was said. Jimmy Anderson is too old, too long in the tooth to say anything stupid. And Kohli is just a competitor and is doing his best for his country. So good luck, and I hope to see it tomorrow. I imagine that Anderson was pretty pissed off that Bumrah just ran and tried to hurt him by the sounds of it the night before, and that's what the commentator was saying. Like, that's a bit more of an iffy topic that we have to discuss. If Mark Wood had ran in at Shami and just tried to kill him, basically, which is what Bumrah tried to do, try to hurt him, I don't see the Indian fans being quite so supportive of it. But that's cricket, and I know that's what happened. But look, if that's the tactic that Kohli wants to go down and try and hurt Jimmy Anderson, then Jimmy Anderson has every right to try and have a go back and try and get him out. I don't think that's a bad thing, right? So it's just competitive sport at its best, really, and two great competitors.
Well, of course, we mustn't forget that Pat Cummins actually broke Shami's arm in Australia.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the last over at Adelaide. Yeah.
It's quite nasty. Now, Chris, I want to introduce this girl to you. Your Sunday Hapathanantri. She's a bit of a Nilakshi Sharma. But she's actually she's based in England, has a Fiji Indian background and a bit of Sri Lankan mixed in. She has her own music channel. She's got her own. She's quite young. She's about, I think she's 12, 13, 14. She's very young, and she has. That's her there. So say, if you don't mind saying hello to her. She's a bit of.
Hello, Sandy. Nice to see you. Thanks for tuning in. Sorry, I'm not here so much, but I'm going to try and get on with Norman again because he gets a bit moody and he's a bit of a diva. So I'm going to have to try and make more effort, I think.
And also Positive House, which is also her organisation. She's got a YouTube there saying "Stay Positive." Also, just to introduce you to Sunday there, incredible young girl. I've gone to her YouTube page, quite impressive. Very young, but a big fan of the show. Is based in England, but has a mixture of Sri Lankan, Indian, and Fijian roots. So quite an amazing young kid. All right. Also, there's a lot of discussion around. Well, first of all, Ashwin. We've dealt with Ashwin's discussion, haven't we, Naresh and Chris? We've dealt with Ashwin to an extent, but there is discussion around: has this been an innings that's actually resurrected? You would argue Pujara and Rahani's careers, because they look like they were being talked out of the side.
At least this series, yes. At least this series, yes. They're playing the rest of the series. Because after that, I think New Zealand comes to India. That's the series. So we'll have to see if they want to get in some new guys like Vihari is there in the reserves. Mayank Agarwal, he missed out purely because of injury, but KL has done very well to open with. So, but at least in this series, not drastic changes unless there are fitness issues.
Yeah, I don't disagree. Unfortunately, as a batter, there's only one thing that you trade in as a batter, and that's getting hundreds. People forget everything else. When people look back at this test, they'll say, "Oh, KL Rahul got 130 and Joe Root got 180." They won't say Rohit Sharma got 80. People look at hundreds. The honours board is hundreds only, and Pujara's knock was valiant, but that's not going to stop people questioning his place in the side because he hasn't even got 50. So I agree with Naresh that it's taken a bit of the pressure off, but if he goes and gets 2 single-figure scores in the next test, people are going to be calling for his head in the series. So, I agree with Naresh, but Kohli and Rahane really need to get 100. Someone needs to put a big score in and just relieve the pressure on that middle order.
Norman, are you following West Indies, Pakistan?
I have. What's the score right now?
167, I think, to win, and they are 92 for 5.
92.
92 for 4.
So they're 5 down.
Yeah, 4. They just lost another one.
West Indies are 5 for 92. and this is getting quite dicey, and it's very interesting
Miles
actually.
Goff,
And what does that mean? It means Pakistan. So Jermaine Blackwood is still out on 52. He's not out. Yashir Shah hasn't taken a wicket yet, which is interesting. But it looks as though the wobble's going on, isn't there? Because they lost Braithwaite, Powell, and Bonner very quickly, and Roston, Chase, and Blackwood's brought them back a bit. But then Chase has gone and Cole Mayers has gone. The man who got 200. So they've only got really bowlers to go. They've got the keeper and the bowlers to go. Just to clear up, your Sunday is not Indian. She's actually Sri Lankan, and she was born in Fiji. And she's in England. She goes for England. My mistake.
Norman, I'm going to go now. Are you going to be upset if I go now?
Yes.
Well, I'm going to go. So
you've got 4 minutes to survive.
4 minutes, fine. 3 minutes now. Let's just tick over.
Okay. Who's going to win this Test match?
England.
Naresh.
England is ahead, but hope to surprise them tomorrow.
Okay. Who's going to win the series? Give me your predictions for the series, Chris.
I think if England win this Test, I think they'll win the series quite comfortably. Just because I think it'll be a big momentum shift. And going to Headingley and Old Trafford, I think they're two grounds that I think Headingley can suit England like playing there. It's Joe Root's home ground, Bairstow's home ground. Anderson likes bowling there. It's a good pitch for the seamers, and I think that the overlying fragilities in that Indian middle order might just might struggle with the momentum side of things, because India have picked a good side, but the tail is too long. That tail is very, very long. For a side, if Kohli in the middle.
I have a question. Yeah, I have a question. Do you think Anderson will play all the 5 tests?
I think that they might. They'll definitely play him in the next Test. And they'll make a view. Maybe if England are winning, if England can wrap the series up before the last, they might rest him. It just depends on workload, really, and how he's feeling. He wants to play every Test. Depends on Woakes' availability. Depends on Broad's fitness. Broad's out for the series, which might twist their arm that maybe Anderson has to play. They might have said, well, Broad misses out at Lords, Anderson and Broad play at Headingley, and then maybe Anderson misses out at the Oval Old Trafford. So Anderson will play at Old Trafford. That's the last Test. It's his home. He's got an end named after him. I'd be staggered if they don't play him at home. So maybe they won't play him at the Oval, but we'll just have to wait and see. I really don't know. I don't know what their thinking is.
Well, he had that quad injury going to this match, so he was in some doubt leading into it. He snapped out of it to play this game, so that's one thing. But definitely, Broad's out for the series. Chris Woakes is one that may come back into contention. And Mark Wood, is what Naresh was telling me earlier, injured himself later in the day today. He may be struggling.
Yeah, he went down, didn't he? Hopefully he's just strapped up and he's just jarred it and we're good to go in the morning. So,
although Mark Wood is so injury prone, he generally plays a Test and then inevitably has the next Test off. He's done that quite often, hasn't he?
I'm getting a lot of use in the comments from Thursday about I only appear when England are winning or not losing. I'm pretty sure I did night and day in that India series over the winter. I was getting up at 4 a.m. and watching England get absolutely annihilated. So I think that's fairly harsh. And England are.
What's wrong with this? I think it's a fun comment.
I agree, but it's I think it's a fairly harsh comment.
It's not harsh at all. It's not harsh at all, because you know what? It's partly correct, because
it's not. I'm getting up at 4 a.m. that whole series to come and talk to you and Malali and all that lot.
Well, that's okay. Fair enough, but we can be cheeky with you. We miss you, Chris, mate. Your dad's been great, but your dad's not you, I'm afraid. Don't say it to your dad.
He'll be listening. He'll be listening.
Well, Munchie, you're under strict instructions. I don't know. No, but you've been a part of the show from the beginning, and we need to do a so-called, an Aussie and a Pom one again. We've got to do one of those again soon.
We will do for sure.
Okay, cool. All right, so Old Trafford September will be cold and damp, Munchie says.
Yeah.
Hope so. That'll suit us better than India. I'd have thought so.
And Munchie's calling it 2-1 England for his discussion. Munchie, you can come on. If Chris goes, Munchie, you can come on if you want to, because I'm in a mood to start today for some reason.
I'll call it 2-1 India. I'll call it 2-1 India.
Yeah, no, of course, the rest is going 2-1 India. I would hope you would be saying. I actually said 3-2 India at the beginning, but that was on the basis of winning the first match, which was a draw. So I went back to 2-2, actually. So I'll stick with 2-2.
Perfect. I'm going to go, guys.
What are you saying, Chris? Are you saying 3-1?
I think 2-1 England. Yeah, I think England win the series, especially if they win tomorrow.
Yeah, tomorrow's a big day for both sides, actually. They need to get to get a 1-0 victory up is a great thing, and it's looking in England's favour at this stage. India, it's probably going to be England winning a draw. India in the reality stakes. That would be the way of looking at it at this point in time. But we just don't know until it happens, do we?
No. Perfect.
Right, is your dad at home?
I think he's at home. Yeah, he's at home. Yeah.
Munchie's got dinner in a bit. Can't you? I've got biscuits here. It's my bloody dinner. Munchie, you should be able to come on. That's an excuse. Remember Justin Langer's comments here.
Oh, yeah.
Never underestimate India. That's a fair point. Justin Langer always says that. Well, against Australia, he has to say it because Australia is so crap at the moment. Don't you think, Chris, before you go, quick discussion on the T20 efforts of Australia in the West Indies and Bangladesh?
Oh, all I'll say is I'm absolutely delighted. Could not be happier to see the Aussies get absolutely annihilated. And especially a good friend of mine was taking wickets for the West Indies. You know, Hayden Walsh Jr. I went to school with him. He played at my club. So to see a guy who, you know, probably even 2 or 3 years ago never thought he'd get the chance. You know, he went and qualified for America and played for the United States, and has then sort of come in and taken his opportunity to play for West Indies. I'm over the moon for him, and who doesn't like seeing the that's one thing that ourselves and my Indian friends and Naresh, we will agree on, is to see Australians getting hammered is one of life's good things for sure. So
I'm listening to you both and taking notes to this.
But Norman, it's all after the GABA test. Something is not going well. You know, many players not wanting to go and play these series. You know, and this was the only best preparation for the World Cup T20. You know, and many opted out. So there is something which is currently not going well. At the same time, now with the injury to Aaron Finch, there's no leader. So who's going to be the captain for the World Cup?
You need to go back. There's 2 events. It's the Sandpaper Gate for sure. Warner Smith are on the nose with a lot of people, and it still continues to this day. Yet again, Warner and Smith were not in the squad that travelled overseas. Where were they? Getting ready for the IPL. The IPL's taken priority. The fact that the IPL was split between the earlier section and the later section has exposed where Australia's priorities are as far as players are concerned. IPL first, Australia second. Dave Warner and Steve Smith disgust me, in particular Warner, because he is prioritising IPL over everything else. Okay? There's no doubt about that.
No,
There's
but
no reason
Norman,
why he didn't play.
Yeah. But what has happened in the first half of IPL, which is still not completed, Smith is not a definite start for Delhi. You know, he's not sure to play in every game.
Paid money to be there.
Yeah, David Warner has been removed from the captainship for Hyderabad. He didn't play the last 2 games.
He was dropped. He wasn't just removed from the captaincy. He was dropped altogether.
Yeah. So second half of IPL, are they sure they would get to even play a game for their respective teams? You know.
Maybe not. But I tell you what, they're getting paid money to be there. They're getting paid a hell of a lot of money to still turn up. And that's their priority, because there was no excuses why both of them didn't travel with a T20, warm-up matches for the World Cup on the basis of both Bangladesh and West Indies. Steve Smith apparently is not going to play the World Cup anyway.
Yeah, he's not going to play the World Cup.
He's keeping himself in the Test series. But the priorities are all gone out of whack. It's a mess. There's a lot to be said about the way Australia's handling. Australia hasn't played a Test match since the Gabba. Chris, can you believe that?
Yeah, it's crazy. It's the same in this country, really, with the way that the scheduling's going with first-class cricket and the 100, trying to fit all the white ball stuff in. And they need to sit down and look at it, because you know, especially with the batting and Test cricket, you know, they need to get people playing more first-class cricket for sure. But unfortunately, that doesn't sell 30,000 seats. It doesn't get the TV rights. There's no money in it, so it struggles purely from a, you know, commercial perspective. But something needs to be done and looked at. But not sure the answer to it. Anyway, Norman, you had 6 minutes more than me.
Well, could I end saying I should go on the streets and get the reaction from Australia about Australia versus Bangladesh? I think we should do that. I might do that tomorrow. I might just have a bit of a chat to people, say what the hell's going on. COVID's pretty bad here, Chris, by the way, too. I've about 400 a day from a zero start. No one's bloody vaccinated. I'm getting vaccinated, my second vaccination in 4 days. So I'm almost done. Have you been vaccinated, Naresh?
Yes, I've been done both the doses, yeah.
And Chris, have you had vaccination?
I've had one. I actually had COVID, so I couldn't. I've got my second dose in a couple of weeks, I think. So, yeah.
So your dad was not well as well, was he?
No, he wasn't too well, but my mum had it and she was fine. So, you know, I think from the vaccination point of view, it doesn't stop you getting it, but it can certainly keep you not as ill as you might have been if you didn't have the vaccine. So. Yes, you, Sandy. We like that. England is the best. And on that note, I'm going to go. So,
all right, Chris,
thank you, everyone.
Come back tomorrow, especially if you're going to gloat about the victory. That's what
I'll try. I've got this week. I'm really busy, but I'll try and get on at some point.
Even for 10 minutes. All right, come in for 10 minutes and gloat.
I'll try.
All right. Okay. Thanks,
you, guys. Everyone. Cheers, Naresh. Good to see you.
Bye. Chris. Same here, Chris. Bye.
Ciao. So, look at this. This is evidence of a fan that Chris must have there. I think this is I thought so. Pretty popular. So, Naresh, I mean, look, I don't want to use the word, I'm disgusted with Australia's performances and the way they're handling it. Yeah. I'm not disgusted with India, but I'm very disappointed because I really think that, really, that they've blown a chance here, haven't they? Yeah. Munchie's made a comment here, and I'll make this very... Chris is not here, Reg is not here, but for public record, Munchie has said, Mrs. Vernon is awesome. She's had to deal with Reg and Chris all their lives. Well, it's a fair point. I can see your point, Munchie, and I'll make sure that that's recorded on our video, and it'll be well documented that this is your words. In fact, I may even photograph this and post this, and let's just see what Richard's reaction is to this. There's some significant words there. We'll have to make note of that, so that'll be recorded. All right. So again, Naresh, are you disappointed?
Yeah, as I said, I think we lost a wicket too much today. Too many wickets, rather. We could have, if the way Rahane and Pujara were batting those 3 hours, if they could have played out the day, it would have been a huge psychological advantage. Then probably India could have looked at even forcing a draw tomorrow. But here, England looks ahead. India will have it's going to be a miracle for India to save the game or even win it. But I still feel there is some excitement left tomorrow. That 200, 210 is what we need. We need those 50, 60 runs first up in the morning.
Well, 220 is absolutely needed if they're going to try and win this match. I think they need as many runs as they possibly get. And look, 220 is effectively 66 runs. Okay, 66 runs is what is needed. It's not an impossible task because in the first innings of the test at Trent Bridge, they scored 70 odd the last batters.
70 odd, yeah. 71.
Yeah, so they are capable of doing that, and we know Punch certainly is capable of doing it. He can do it. He can score 20 or 30 in about three overs. He really goes.
Yeah, we can get those 66 in one session if Punch strikes. So. And that's all about Pant tomorrow, because the support is tail-enders, how he's going to ensure that he keeps maximum strike and how he's going to play the new ball, because Anderson, Wood, or if Wood is not fit enough, Robinson, they're going to come hard on him. So,
well, I mean, Mark Wood bowling at brisk pace will suit Punt down to the ground. Yeah. Punt will just play with the speed of the ball and clobber him. It's very possible. Just quickly, what does Chris do? Chris is involved with the mortgage broking industry. So that's what he does. Okay. Yeah, shows Tajeja said, good night. I really want Pat and India to pull some sort of miracle tomorrow. And look, it's not impossible to do that. It really isn't impossible. If the longer punt backs, see, his innings today there was an element of intent about him. I thought he was determined to be not out at the end of the day, and he succeeded. And he will be pumped up tomorrow. Look, I'd be surprised if it takes 1 or 2 hours before punt clobbers someone over point or something. He'll do something tomorrow early and set the scene. All he needs is about 2 or 3 overs of 40 or 50 runs, and I'll take that back. They need to spend at least an hour and a half out there. They need to spend an hour and a half
First
out there.
session, yeah. First, if they can spend the first full session, go into lunch, I think that would be good, because then definitely it's 200 plus. Because if Pant is spending time for 2 hours, he will score runs.
Yeah. Would you declare? So I shouldn't say. Let's say declare. Say there were, 7 down at the lunch break, and they had a lead of 220, 230. Would they declare? Or would they continue to bat?
I don't think India would declare.
No. Okay.
India would
So
continue to bat.
effectively, it's going to have to be an all-out performance, as an all-out, as in score-wise, all-out. That's the way they'll approach it. Because ultimately, India would also be happy with a draw if needed, wouldn't they? Because the series would still be well and truly alive. It'll become a 3-test series rather than a 5-test series. So that's true. I don't think Punt will just play his natural game, but I think the other batters will try and survive and take up as much time as possible. And they're all bowlers.
That's the key.
Understand.
Yeah, that's the key. Yeah, that's the key.
Well,
and it's the same thing. What we were speaking about. Yeah, what Bumrah was trying to do to Anderson. There's a possibility. These are bowlers. There could be bouncers trying to hurt them. And that's fair. Whatever is fair within the game. And India wouldn't want any bowler to get injured to bowl the last inning.
I'm pretty sure Anderson will drop a few short into a few of the bowlers. I'm pretty sure he will.
Mark would definitely. He was getting good bounce, and he has that extra pace, and the way he got Rohit Sharma set up, So Mark Wood he was really bowling well. He was bowling those short ones.
It is interesting because Mark Wood was brought on very early today, wasn't he? He was
only 2 overs to Robinson. And then he replaced. And I think it was purely because of the additional pace he was getting off the wicket, and he got KL Rahul with that surprise. Then he got Rohit Sharma. And even to Pujara, he used the same tactic what Australia was using. Round the wicket, he was bowling the short with I think forward short leg and a backward square also. So they've really studied of Pujara well.
But it is interesting because it was a master stroke from Root to bring on Wood a lot earlier because he got Sharma. He got a 3-card trick on Sharma. Sharma was a bit disappointing because he saw the challenge, hit a fantastic ball for 6, and then thought every ball was going to go to the boundary, and it was wrong. He should have let a lot of those balls go and have survived that period, as opposed to try and take them on. It was far too early.
Yeah, and that's what his natural instinct. He pulls the ball well, but if that little extra bounce where it's going little above his eye, actually he's not controlling the shot. He hit a 6 in the first inning also, but it was more an edge. He didn't control it. It was Wood's pace that took it over the fence. Same thing happened today, So that is where he needs to control his instinct. He likes to play that shot. Yeah.
Well, he got out caught at fine leg, didn't he? Was it his 83 or was it the previous innings? I can't remember. But he holed out to fine leg, didn't he? He started again today.
It was in the first test. It was his first test,
exactly. And he was looking good then. He was looking good as well. They were 97 as a total. So again,
97. Just at the strike of lunch, he got out the last ball before lunch. Yeah.
But again, we're knocking. This is the problem with Rohit Sharma. We expect so much of him. We know he can do well, but he's done really in the first 2 tests. He's done exceptionally well. His 83 in the first innings was magnificent. Yeah. Okay, he got out cheaply today, which he could have went on, but he batted well in the first test. In the first 3 innings, he was in more than 50-run partnerships to open the batting, or at least he survived. Well, 97 in the first innings. I think it was 50 odd in the second before the rain hit. He was not out, and then a massive opening partnership in the first thing. He's
Yeah.
done very, very well.
Yeah, but actually today, it didn't look good the way he got set up. There were three
Yeah.
fielders in the deep, and he played it to that, and it was a good batting day. There cannot be any excuse of conditions today. It was a very good batting day, like how England got yesterday. So yeah, that's a bit disappointing. He was doing well. He was scoring well. Whatever he could hit, he was timing it very well. Same like
Yeah.
Virat. Virat had a couple of very good cover drives. But then again, he's playing too much, going too much outside the off stump to go for the ball, and edged it to. And Sam Curran needed a wicket, and he got Virat Kohli. Because Sam Curran is also having an average performance with the ball.
Yeah. Although he did take Kohli's wicket.
Yeah.
Kohli's shot was a bit disappointing. He was, again, he wants to get bat on ball, I know, but that ball, it was a nothing
He could have
shot.
left.
It was a nothing shot. If he was going to play this, he might as well have gone for it full-blooded. It was a nothing shot. It just stuck his bat out there. Very frustrating. So West Indies are 5 for 111 at the moment. Jason Holder's
Yes.
come out and hit fours. So they've got, 50-odd to get there. Still very close.
57 to win. Yes, I think.
Jason Holder's a great player. I think West
Oh, very
Indies,
good.
he's no longer captain, but he's certainly a player to be noted, isn't he? He's a great player. Very nice bloke. He seems to be in it. I wonder why he lost the captaincy. What do you reckon he lost the captaincy for?
Yeah. Even I'm not aware what happened. He was always a test captain. I think last year when the cricket started again with the bio bubble, he led the side to England. They won the first test, but don't know the reason why he's not the captain of the test side.
Well, Munchie's still there. He's having a chat to his Sunday, and Martin and John's having a bit of a go at him. There's a bit of character going. So, guys, Packerson, we know Karan Shah is mentioning what we've been talking about. Sunday, we are forgetting that Kohli was still averaging over 50, 60 in ODIs and T20s in the last 2 years. He is out of form in tests only. Yeah, he is. It's his mindset because his talent's still there. We know that. If India lose this match, by any chance, they need to add Ashwin in the upcoming series. Yeah, if they're going to add Ashwin, they're going to have to take Jadeja out of the team because I don't think they're going to play both of them. It's intriguing because didn't you see, Naresh? Did you see how Ashwin looked decidedly uncomfortable sitting there watching? He would be not happy not being selected. I reckon if there's any dissension in the Indian camp, it's when Ashwin finds out he's not playing, he would be not happy.
Yeah, and that's what it's a very tough call that has been taken, and Ashwin, if you go to see whatever runs he has scored in tests has been recent. In Australia he did well, especially the Sydney test to play out the draw. Then in Chennai, a difficult track, he scored 100. It's been a very, very tough call to keep Ashwin out for Jadeja. Yes, Jadeja has an upper hand in the way he is in the field. And being a left-hander, I think that is where he's getting the preference, being a left-hander. But a very tough one for Ashwin. 400 test wickets.
He wouldn't be happy. He would be sitting there. He'd be probably saying, "Why am I not playing?" Would you agree? I don't think he'd be saying, "No problems."
Yeah,
it's fine. I think
especially when we're struggling to get Joe Root out, he's getting back-to-back hundreds. So
I wonder would Ashwin, because he's a bit of a talker, would he be sitting in the dressing room saying, "Well, if I was out there, I would have taken his wicket"? I wonder if he would say that. I'd love to hear what happens.
No, because what happens is whatever little bit Jadeja is bowling left arm orthodox, he's moving the ball away, and Joe Root is doing well towards point and backward, towards the third man. Ashwin would have blocked that. It wouldn't have been easy to play Ashwin in those areas. So that's something, because Joe Root is doing very well on that area, outside the off stump, he's scoring and on the leg side also he's scoring. So that's why when Joe Root settles, you feel probably Ashwin would have done better against him.
Well, again, Root was not out 180, wasn't
he? Yeah.
So Munchie's joined us. Here we go. Munchie's joined us.
Good evening, everyone. I've only got 10% left on the phone, Norman, but it's been enjoyable listening to the conversation. Yeah.
How are you? Now have you had dinner?
Dinner's on the way, so I've got 10% left on the phone, so it'll be only a few minutes. But I thought you're giving me some abuse, so I thought I'll come and join.
So when you say dinner is on the way, is your wife cooking?
Yes.
Okay, so I almost got the
So
impression.
don't upset.
No, I'm talking takeaway or something. You might have got something.
Oh no. Yeah.
Do you have Uber Eats and you have Uber Eats, don't you?
We do in this country, but I live out in the sticks, so in the countryside. So yeah, because I'm about 7-8 miles outside of town, they generally don't deliver, or if they do, it's cold.
All right. So what is on the menu?
We've got some trout tonight.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
you're making me hungry. Despite the fact that it's 5:21 a.m. here, I should be having breakfast, not dinner. Anyway, it's funny. I'm sleeping all different times of the day. I really don't know what time it is. To me, this is lunchtime.
You'll be jet lagged by the end of the series, Norman.
I think so. All right, Munchie, tell Naresh and I what your thoughts are on this match. You're probably very happy.
I am very happy. I've been obviously out most of the day. I was just catching up on the highlights while you were having the conversation with Chris. So I was very surprised by the morning session, how quickly Rohit and Rahul got out. I was surprised. Obviously, England were in the brilliant position of being effectively India being 0 for 2. And we've discussed before about Rahane and Pujara being quality players. And they came back in that afternoon session. They showed what could be done. And then, obviously, Pujara got a brutal delivery from Wood, very difficult to play. And so the game's completely open now. It's going to be very interesting with the new ball in their first session tomorrow. I can understand why England didn't play it this evening because the players would have been taken off straight away. But it rests with Pant and that pressure. Can he last, add 50, 60 runs on the board with the tail? Because that may then take it just over what England are capable of doing. Yes, they'll say, oh, yeah, if you can get 200, 220 in a day, but you're then looking at trying to score 3 or 4 in and over in a test match on a wicket that's not deteriorating. It's going to be slow and there is some sideways movement. And so it will be difficult to score at a tremendous rate. And, the comments made earlier, Sandeep made a very telling comment about England having a fragile batting lineup. And I agree. Root has been so dominant for the team. But England could quite easily be 20 for 2, 20 for 3, and then you're actually looking at saving the game rather than trying to win it.
Well, that's exactly right. The fact is, you take Root's scores out of the equation in both Test matches, 100 of both innings, both Test matches. Yeah. Really, that's been the difference in both matches.
Yeah, and that's it. The concern that I've got is, Root could get a snorter of delivery like Pujara did, or one keeps low. And then what's going to happen? Could you trust Butler and Ali to keep the ball out? They're very attacking batsmen. And could they then defend for 50 or 60 overs to save the game? So I don't think it's cut and thrust England win. I think it's still a very open test match. And as we discussed yesterday, some of the best games are 5-day draw test matches because it could go either way. The wicket's not deteriorating that much. It's not crumbling. It's not spitting all over the place. I made the comment earlier about Jadeja. He could come into the game, but he bowls at such a pace that sometimes the spin will be negated. He's really got to slow that down and give the ball an opportunity to get revolutions going and bite off the pitch. Because if he tries to bowl it too quickly, it's almost just pushing it through and then the England players can play it. This is where Ashwin would have been very canny. He would have known the pace to bowl because he really does flex his pace, possibly put some more drift in it, some more flight. So it'll be very interesting tomorrow.
Just an update on the West Indies-Pakistan game. West Indies now 6 for 111.
Same excitement. We may see this tomorrow. The same excitement we may see tomorrow in England.
It could be a similar result. If England are 6 for 113, chasing 220 tomorrow, what do you think will happen, Munchie?
So what was that, Norman? So what was if England are
6? Like at the moment, the West Indies are 6 for 113, needing 55 runs. Let's just imagine that this is exactly the same happens tomorrow. England are 6 for 113, needing another 55 runs.
Well, it depends who's out there batting with Root.
Root's Root's not batting. Root's gone. He's gone.
But if that's the situation and Root's not batting, I would favour India. Yeah.
Interesting. I mean, this whole match, Pakistan scored 217, 203. West Indies got 253. West Indies have been, you would argue, in the ascendancy the whole match. And now they're wobbling at 613. They're in with a big chance of losing.
Yeah, but don't forget, Pakistan are not a bad side. They've got a good bowling attack. And if the wickets deteriorate and it's doing things, that they could go through the West Indies.
That's true. Very true. Now, Amresh Singh, who's a member, not just a subscriber, has made a comment here about Kohli, Rohit and Rahane all threw their wickets away. I don't think it's going to be difficult for England to chase whatever India gives them. So he's rather sadly not happy with India's performance.
I think Rahane was unlucky. He got a very good delivery from Wood that jumped at him. Rohit, yes, I agree, was almost getting into be hooking happy. Perhaps Naresh can comment, obviously, on Rohit in India on his technique. And once again, Kohli, was he put off a little bit by the previous over where they had the LBW call on him that just went over the stumps? And so was that in the back of his mind? So then playing the next ball and trying to push it out outside the off stump.
Yeah, I think that set him up nicely, as a matter of fact. And
yeah, but Kohli was Kohli was chasing a lot outside the off stump. If he has, because you can see his leg stump when he's connecting the ball. He's too way outside the off stump to try to push the ball, and that's how he got the edge to Sam Curran. And Rohit, I agree. From the pull perspective is fine, but little few inches above for the hook, he's not been able to control the shot, and that's what his natural instinct he has to control in Test cricket. Rohit Sharma. They set it up well. They had three fielders in the deep for him for that delivery. So, that's very unfortunate. Pujara got a very good one from Wood. And Rahane was not decisive to Moeen Ali to go forward or back, and then he got an edge. So, same thing with Jadeja. They both could have played forward, but they were not decisive enough.
Yeah.
So I did bring you on, Munchie. I did bring you on here to discuss what your comment was about Mrs. Vernon and the suffering that she's had to put with a double whammy of Chris and Reg. Please explain live on television, so we've got it recorded.
She is a lovely lady, and to put up, obviously not so much Chris, because obviously being the sun, the sun shines out of his rear, shall we say, but having to deal with Chris for Reg for 25, 30 years, she's a saint, absolutely a saint. Yeah.
So it's on record here, Mr. Banstead boy, if you're watching, I'm sure you are. We'll replay this several times. We'll actually take the snippet out. Munchie on record has said Mrs. Vernon has suffered for a long time, and she's a saint because of the perseverance of putting up with both you, Reg Vernon, and to an extent, son Chris Vernon. So it's on record. It's okay. So we can't have it. We can't have any denial. It's physically on YouTube. In fact, the world will see this as well. It won't be just the Vernon family. In fact, anyone who knows the family will see this. So, and it's a record you can't take away. I'm not going to erase it. All right.
Everyone will agree with me. Yeah.
Oh, everyone will agree with you too. Well, then we'll have to bring them all on at some stage. And let's have a Zoom type picture of about 20 people all agreeing with you. Let's see how many people you can muster. How many friends of Mrs. Vernon you can muster on one shot. We'll have them all agreeing to that same point. That's a challenge for you, Munchie. We'll create perhaps a 3-minute video of just comments about what Mrs. Vernon's sainthood is all about.
Well, I think we have spoken about trying to get the three of us together with Chris and Reg, myself, all together, just having a beer while partaking in the show sometime.
That would be good if all three were together, because physically together, that would be ideal. Yeah. I would love that.
Yeah, they're about 10 miles or so from me. Yeah.
Well, how about maybe by the next test, if not earlier. We've only got tomorrow. Next test, get all the three of you together on an afternoon for a beer. All right.
Well, we'll try and organise something. Yeah.
Okay. Good.
If Chris, if Richard is still talking to me, of course. Yeah.
Well, of course, now that it's on record that you think that his wife is a saint putting up with him, and that's on record, public record. Naresh and I have heard it, and the rest of India has probably heard of it. Most of England, Australia, and America, God knows where else. Probably even places like Holland and Fiji and Bahrain and Philippines, they've all heard it. So it's on record. Okay. So ball is turning. England struggles. Root out early and game on. Very positive. Yeah. Go India. Amresh Singh has said first session on day 5 in the World Test Championships final and first session today were decisive. Would it be a miracle if Rishabh can pull this back? It'll be pretty exciting if he goes out there and scores a swashbuckling 80 tomorrow. It'll certainly change things, won't it?
Yeah, and I agree. As we discussed, Norman, it's too many overs. 90 overs tomorrow. It's very important how many overs India can bat and how many they can score out of it. So, and that's what happened against New Zealand. In the end, there were too many overs and too lesser targets set. So it's a similar situation. But yeah, as we've been discussing about Rishabh Pant, he's the key tomorrow.
Yeah, and I think even if Pant scores a quick 20 or 30 in 10 overs as such, if that score can get over 200, you're still looking at 3 and over to score on a 5th day wicket. I mean, it's not doing crazy things. It's not turning square. It's not jumping off a length too much every single ball. But that will still be difficult. We're in for a great day's cricket tomorrow.
And weather's not a problem, is it, Munchie?
Not that, no, it looks dry. Yeah, it'll depend on obviously the overcast conditions. If it's a sunny day, then you've got to look to the batting side. If there's overcast conditions, that will definitely favour the bowlers. And India do have a good bowling team.
Yeah. Very much so. So that trout, what are you going to have with the trout?
Vegetables.
Go on, tell me more. What vegetables?
So some little potatoes, some carrots, some peas. Yeah. Richard will probably say that the trout came from my trout stream at the bottom of the estate, but no, it came from the supermarket.
Oh, right. You didn't catch it yourself, in other words. All right.
God, my brother's the fisherman, not me. Yeah.
Well, I'm 5 in the morning. I probably will have a cereal before too long because I'm certain I'll probably be asleep in a few minutes. By the way, after I finish this for sure. All right. Well, Munchie, any last words? What's your last thoughts?
No, my last thought is I think people have been talking about, in the past about, so if we go back to the series in India with the 2-day test, it's how great is 5-day test match cricket. We've got a wicket. We've got both teams could potentially win the game. And we're going into the 5th day. The ticket to Lords are £20 for adults and £10 for children.
Yeah.
So expect a full house tomorrow. Yeah, win, draw, possibly even a tie. All these scores are possible. That's what makes Test match cricket so great. And so I can't wait for tomorrow.
I'm equally as excited. Naresh, have India got any hope of winning this match?
As I said, I think we are heading for a thriller. It would be a close one. It would be close. But yeah, again, it's all the first session.
We mustn't forget that England aren't known to win matches at Lords, are they? I don't think the last time they won at Lords was some time ago. They haven't won there. They don't win there very often, do they, Munchie and Norris?
No, they don't. And I think the key thing is, I think when you're looking at Test match cricket, it's who wants to win the game as opposed to who doesn't want to lose it. It's the fear of
2018.
Fear of losing.
Yeah, 2018.
Yeah,
2018 tour. I think England beat India. That had happened in the last tour.
At Lords.
That was all about at Lords. Yeah.
Did they? I wasn't aware of that. I thought I had the impression that England have not won a match there for some time.
No, 2018, because 2018 the only test India won was Trent Bridge.
Right. Okay. And they lost. They definitely lost Lords.
They lost Lords.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh well, that's a pity because I'm hoping there was a bit of runs on the board that would tell me that India could pull us out. Look, it'll be absolutely fantastic if India did win this. Why? Because it'll open up the series even more, put more pressure on England, make more of an emphasis of playing well in the future. But I'm not certain about that. It does look like England will win this. Hopefully, India put up a fight. If India collapse tomorrow morning and get out very quickly, that'll be pretty sad.
Yeah, that's what it is. There's too much time and overs in hand for England to chase that. Yeah.
But then again, if India can get some quick wickets, well, the likelihood in the past, obviously India do get quick wickets against England's openers, it throws the game open again. So even if India are dismissed for 20 runs within half an hour or so, I still wouldn't dismiss India in the Test match. So that's why tomorrow is going to be such an interesting day. India obviously have a lead at the moment. It's not as much as they would want, but it's certainly not
Yeah.
enough to dismiss India losing the test.
It does come down to one person. They get Root out quickly, and anything can happen. Substantial loss. All right, guys, you've been Naresh has been a long time. Munchie, you've just come on and joined us. I appreciate both of you being here. We've gone 2.5 hours, which has been fantastic. I'll let you both go. I think we've done. I'm now 5:36 a.m. in the morning. Naresh, you're about 1 o'clock in the morning, aren't you?
1 o'clock. Yeah.
There you go.
And Munchie's getting hungry. So thanks, guys. Thanks, Munchie. Please come back tomorrow. Naresh, I hope to see you tomorrow as well. All right, Naresh,
Okay,
you take
Norman.
care.
See you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
See you later, Naresh. Take it easy.
Yeah. Bye-bye.
Bye. Wonderful. We've had a magnificent set of guests. We've had Chris Vernon, David Graveney, and we've had Naresh join us, and then Munchie at the end there. 4 great guests. Thank you very much, guys. I want to make sure that you all view, like, and share the Eyes on Cricket YouTube channel. It's my channel. I'm very proud of it. I want you to make sure that you are subscribed. Please, if you haven't done so now, please do it now. Then go about hitting the notification button. See me on Instagram on both at Norm Koch on Instagram and on Twitter. I'm on LinkedIn as well. I've got a Facebook page. So, guys, thanks for joining us. Cheers, guys. Thanks, Amarish Singh. Hopefully, Monday Blues from India. Good to happy Independence Day, Fiesta as well. England win. India, I hesitate. So let's go, guys. Talk to you, in fact, tomorrow for the pre-show, which will be on about 9 a.m. England time, about 1:30 p.m. Indian time, and 6 o'clock Australian time. All right, all the best. See you tomorrow.